operates on basically all mediums to create like blank documents.
Okay, welcome. We're going to get going here. Quiet on the set. We're going to kick it off. All right, so good evening and welcome to the Town of Barnstable Planning Board meeting for September 22nd, 2025. Located here at Barnstable Town Hall, 367 Main Street, Hyannis, Mass, in the James H. Crocker Jr. Hearing Room. We are on the second floor and the time is 7 o'clock p.m. The meeting notice has been previously filed with the town clerk, and application materials may be accessed through the planning board's website at townofbarnstable.us/boards/committees/planning board, or by contacting Karen Pina at karen.pina@town.barnstable.ma.us, or calling 508-862-4064. Notice of recording. The meeting will be televised live via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via the Government Access Channel live stream on the Town of Barnstable's website, which is barnstable.cablecast.tv/internet channel/watch now. I will now inquire whether anyone else is taping this meeting, and if you are, please make your presence known. Seeing none, we will call the meeting to order and introduce our board members and staff, starting with Michael.
Good evening, Michael Messinas.
Mary.
Good evening, Mary Barry.
Ray.
Good evening, Ray Sexton.
Matt.
Hi, Matt Tague.
Tim.
Good evening, Tim O'Neill.
And Karen.
Good evening, Karen Pina, Planning and Development, Admin Assistant.
And Jim.
Good evening, Jim Cupford, Director of Planning and Development.
And Kyle.
Kyle Pedicini, Planning and Development Department.
And my name is Steve Robichaud, and we will officially call the meeting to order. Before we get to our first item this evening, which is general public comment, I'd like to start by setting the stage, as we have a very busy agenda ahead of us. So tonight our agenda includes an A&R application, a special permit application, as well as 6 zoning amendments that have been forwarded to this board from the Town Council. Zoning amendments are a big deal, something that we take our role very seriously. Our job is to review proposed amendments and offer a recommendation to Town Council. We want to be sure that we give each item proper due diligence and allow for sufficient time for members of the public to speak and to allow for full discussion, consideration, and review. It's simply not feasible to tackle the review, discussion, public comment, and vote for all 6 zoning amendments in one night. Therefore, these zoning amendments will be taken over multiple meetings. My role as chair is to lead these proceedings and set our agenda with cooperation from town staff. I like to set the stage just so that everybody knows how the meeting will progress out of respect for people's time. Tonight's meeting will go as follows. We'll, of course, start with the A&R, as we always do, and then we will tackle the special permit. I did want to ask the special permit applicant if you were willing to move your item to after the zoning amendments. So if you don't mind weighing in on that. Certainly, it's completely up to you.
No, we would prefer to stay where we are on the agenda.
That is just fine. Understood. I respect that. Thank you. Figured I would ask. For the zoning amendments, we're going to start with the 4 that relate to the downtown zoning Hyannis area. We'll tackle these in this order. First, we will open all 4 downtown zoning amendment items. We will open the public hearing for each one. Our Planning and Development Director, Jim Cupfer, will give a presentation on these 4 items. We will take public comment on each of these 4 items, which I'll have more on that in a moment. And if the board agrees, we will discuss all 4 downtown Hyannis zoning amendments. If the board does not exhaust our discussion of any of those items and we feel any require additional research or discussion, we will continue these items to our October meeting. For the items that will be continued to our October meeting, as I always do, I ask the board to consider Director Cupford's presentation and public comments we hear tonight in order to provide staff with homework between now and our October meeting. Examples would be, what background info should staff provide? Are there any individuals we should hear from? This will allow staff to work to allow for a more robust discussion at our October meeting. Again, this is in the instance that any items are continued to October. So the final 2 zoning amendments, which relate to home occupation in commercial vehicles on residential properties, will both be continued to our November meeting. Again, tonight's agenda is very busy, and we expect our October meeting will also be very busy. For this reason, all discussion and public comment for the home occupation amendment and the commercial vehicles on residential properties amendment will take place at the November meeting. In terms of public comment, we always start our meetings with general public comment that is not related to any of our agenda items. this evening. If you have a copy or you've seen the agenda, you'll see that that's our first item. If you attended this meeting to speak to home occupation amendment or the commercial vehicle amendment, I will allow your comments on these items during that general public comment period. So again, if you came out tonight to talk to either one of those, rather than waiting to the November meeting, you will be given a chance to speak at our general public comment section. And again, if you have comments on the 4 downtown Hyannis zoning amendments, you will have a chance to speak on those 4 items once those respective public hearings are opened. I will be very clear and will announce when public comment will open and what specifically that particular public comment session pertains to. So 2 more things before we begin. First, relating to the amendment on commercial vehicles. There was some confusion about this item that was clarified by the town on Friday. This proposed amendment that was forwarded to the planning board from town council does not intend to limit boat storage or boat trailers on residential properties. That was some confusion. That's not part of this amendment. The matter is related to commercial vehicles and their associated trailers. Staff is working to update the language of this proposed amendment between now and our November meeting. And again, this item will be continued to November to allow sufficient time for discussion and consideration. Jim, anything to add from the town's perspective on that?
I think you summed it up rather well. I would just add that the zoning in the town of Barnstable is very convoluted. It's very large. It has many sections. This one before you this evening, and what sounds like a continuation to November, is specifically related to commercial vehicle parking. And so I can understand why individuals would see something within that and says trailers in a certain size and be concerned about that. However, within the commercial vehicle parking, it does not touch on or regulate boat storage or boat parking with trailers. I would say that's a different section of our ordinance, and the building commissioner is the one that enforces that. It's a completely different section, not for discussion, not for an amendment at this time.
Yeah, that section that pertains to that is not, there's no change considered for that at this time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Understood. Thank you. So, just one more thing, again, before we start. Last thing before we start. So, a quick review of public comment, right? So, in keeping with our past policy and the town council's policy, if you do speak for public comment, each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak. We've been pretty lenient on this in the past. Tonight, we're going to allow an extra 30 seconds to kind of wrap up comments. Again, there are a lot of people here. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak, but we do have to keep it to within those policies and rules. So, Vice Chair Tim O'Neill will be in charge of keeping time. At 3 minutes, Tim will state 30 seconds remaining, which is that 30-second warning. At 3 minutes, 30 seconds, Tim and myself will inform the speaker that their time is up, and we will move to the next speaker. The board takes public comment very seriously. We greatly appreciate any and all comments. Please keep in mind that this is a public comment period where the public expresses their views. It's not a question and answer session or a back and forth with the board. The public does have the right to dialogue with town staff to get any questions answered. The board also may respond to public comment once that public comment session period is closed. However, the board is under no obligation to do so. If you do come up to speak, always love to hear your name for the record, as well as what town or village you are from. And last, each individual zoning amendment item will have its own public comment period. This means members of the public will be provided opportunities to speak on each zoning amendment item, meaning, again, we have 6 zoning amendments in front of us. If you'd like to speak on all 4 of the downtown zoning amendments, you have the right to do so. So you're not limited to just 3 minutes for tonight. All right. And last, just let's all please be respectful and civil. Do not speak when others are speaking. Do not raise your hand. That really doesn't do anything. We won't be calling on anyone. When the public comment period is open, each person will have their time to speak. We want to be respectful of that person. Please don't yell out from your seat. This is disrespectful, rude, and disruptive to the meetings. Running a respectful and professional meeting is very important to myself and my fellow board members. Any questions, comments, concerns from the board or staff before we get this going?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, right.
So I just want to make sure, because I'm a little slow.
Come on.
So first of all, we've clarified that boat trailers are out. We're not dealing with boat trailers right now.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And secondly, during the general comment right now, if people were here to speak to the 2 amendments that we're not going to deal with tonight,
Correct.
they're welcome to step up and do their 3 minutes worth.
Absolutely. We usually don't do that, but we're going to do it this evening because, again, if you came out, if you made the time out of your day to come and speak on those items, again, those items are the home occupation amendment as well as the commercial vehicles amendment. You will be given the opportunity to speak. So Tim is ready to keep time, and if we do have any general public comment this evening, again, this is for any public comment not related to our agenda this evening or related to those two items that we're going to continue to November, come on down and may speak at this time. Just state your name for the record. General public comment is open.
Is there a sign-in sheet at the, oh, there is, yeah.
Do you have a sign-in sheet? Yes, so you walk up to this microphone here. There's a sheet to sign in, so you just write your name and town and go from there. There we go. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Come on down, state your name for the record, and 3 minutes.
Batting leadoff and playing second base.
Sign in first?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you so much. Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to hear us here today. My name is Matthew Moynihan. I live in Centerville. And I'll just say that I teach at the technical high school up in Harwich. I teach the automotive technology program there, have for the last 14 years. Stand before you tonight deeply concerned about the proposed bylaw that would restrict residents from parking trailers over 20 feet or more than one unregistered car, a commercial truck over 1 ton, or certain campers on their own property. This proposal is more than just an ordinance. It's government overreach that reaches into the lives of hardworking families. Barnstable is a community of 50,000 people, not a gated homeowners association. We are diverse, we are working class, and many of us rely on the very vehicles and equipment this bylaw seeks to ban. When I was younger, my family couldn't afford 2 vehicles. What made life possible was being able to bring the work truck home, an F550, that's over 1 ton. That truck put food on the table. At other times, I drove an unregistered car into my driveway and fixed it up myself because that's what blue-collar workers do. We solve problems with our hands. Today, I have a 21-foot boat trailer, and that's how my family spends time together right here in our town. This bylaw ignores the reality of everyday residents. Not everyone can afford to pay for off-site storage. Not everyone has the luxury of hiring someone else to maintain their house or equipment. And not everyone believes that making Barnstable look pretty should come at the expense of working families who keep this town running. We talk often about keeping young families here, about affordability, about respecting the traditions of this community. This proposal does the opposite. It punishes the very people we should be supporting. The tradesmen, the fishermen, the mechanics, the small business owners, and the families who are trying to get by. Barnstable's character has always been rooted in its people, not in the artificial image of perfection. Our town is not one big HOA. It shouldn't be run like one. I urge you to reject this bylaw and instead focus on policies that strengthen our community rather than divide it. Thank you. Should this be left? Should we leave something to be read in, or?
Hold on. Sorry, say it again.
I'm sorry. If we have if we want it in the official record, does it need to get left somewhere?
Yeah, you can
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
move
we'll
it
scan
Karen
that
right
in
there.
and include it. Thank you very much for your comments, and thank you for what you do with the tech school as a teacher. It's a great program down there. Welcome. State your name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Larry Moore, and I live in Katuitt. I've been on several different committees over the years with the town. Right now, I'm committee-free. But in the process of that, however, I've looked at all the zoning things that are up on the agenda. The last one, 012, is the one that's causing a lot of controversy. The way it's written is very poorly written. It's loaded up with a lot of misinterpretations, and it's my understanding that is pending revision. My recommendation is that it be withdrawn. If by withdrawing it, you can clean it up and come back with something clean that whoever the proponent of it is, who I think is the town manager's office, does it properly, focuses precisely on what should be covered and not cover things that are open to misinterpretations. I recommend you do that, and I hope that that's the way you look at it as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate it. Okay, anyone else for general public comment? Mr. Schulte, welcome.
Good evening, Chair Robichaud. I have some general comments tonight regarding some of the ad hoc recommendations, and I'll have specific comments once those items are open for public discussion.
Sounds great.
My name is Bob Schulte, and I live in Centerville. Good evening to all of you. It's nice to see you tonight. On behalf of, and as the former chair of the Ad hoc Zoning and Regulatory Agreement Committee, I'd like to thank you for scheduling tonight's discussion of the 4 immediate priority recommendations identified in the committee's memorandum to the Town Council dated April 7, 2025. While the committee made recommendations which apply to the town on a broader basis, the 4 in tonight's agenda apply specifically to Chapter 240, Down Hyannis zoning districts. I apologize in advance if my comments go a little over 3 minutes, but as the former chair of the ad hoc committee, I kindly asked Chair Robichaud to provide me with an extra minute or so.
Sure.
First, I'd like to ask by a show of hands, how many of you have thoroughly read the ad hoc committee's memorandum, including Exhibits A and B, which were separate memos written by Jim Kupfer, which document the committee's discussions and rationale for making the recommendations before you tonight? Okay. If you haven't yet had time to review the memo and exhibits, I implore you to please do so before you even consider voting on any recommendations for the Town Council. Second, I want to briefly refresh your memories about the committee and its composition. It was comprised of 5 sitting councilors and 4 members of the public. The 4 members of the public were interviewed in a public forum selected from a large field of applicants by the Town Council's Appointments Committee. The committee members represented diversity of life and professional experiences and held a variety of views and opinions on the topics we discussed. Regarding the proposed zoning recommendations before you tonight, I have no doubt the members of the Town Council were doing their best back on February 2nd, 2023, the evening Section 240 Downtown Hyannis zoning districts were passed. However, the reality is the council members, as a group, only spent a total of about 2.5 hours that evening to review, discuss, and make amendments to a major zoning amendment that was proposing a significant zoning change that impacted the way downtown Hyannis looks and feels. In fact, there were 17 amendments made to Section 240 Downtown Hyannis zoning proposal that night, a sure sign to me that what was being presented to the council was not ready for prime time. By comparison, the Ad hoc Zoning and Regulatory Committee held a total of 18 in-person public meetings over a 9-month time frame. These meetings were available to all via Zoom and broadcast live on public access TV. And the committee spent at least 40 to 50 hours reviewing the key provisions of Chapters 168, regulatory agreements, and Chapter 240 zoning, with an emphasis on the downtown Hyannis zoning districts. Before making its final recommendations to the council, the committee's members reviewed a variety of information provided by the town and other sources, met with and heard from numerous town employees, subject experts, and also received extensive public comment regarding concerns and changes that residents and business owners would like to see to preserve the improvement to the quality of life in our town and villages and satisfy their current and future needs. All of this information was seriously discussed, often debated, and taken into consideration by the committee. We're quickly approaching 3 years since the downtown Hyannis zoning was enacted, and there have been significant concerns and complaints expressed by residents and business owners alike. This board's own chair, Mr. Robichaud, who attended and participated in several of the ad hoc committee's early meetings, acknowledged in his interview to be a potential member of the ad hoc committee, and in my subsequent conversations with him, that the downtown Hyannis zone needed some tweaking. In my opinion, it would be the ultimate arrogance for anyone to argue that the public and town officials have learned nothing about the impacts of the downtown Hyannis zoning over the past 3 years, that the downtown zoning passed in early 2023 was perfect as written, and that no adjustments to it should be made to reflect the concerns expressed by both residents and business owners. At the conclusion of its work, 7 of the 8 participating committee members voted and agreed on the recommendations presented to the council in its memo dated April 27th. The 8th member's comments were included as an appendix to that memo. Finally, I will point out that all 4 town councilors, whose constituents include the residents of the village of Hyannis, as well as several other councilors, have expressed support for the priority recommendations before you tonight. As a result of your discussions this evening, and perhaps future meetings, I respectfully request you to seriously consider the ad hoc zoning committee's 4 immediate priority recommendations before you and recommend to the town council that they vote to approve them as soon as reasonably possible. I look forward to tonight's discussion and would be happy to answer any questions which might arise and which you think I can be helpful in answering. Thank you. And as I mentioned, I will be available and have some comments on each of the individual items as they come before the planning board. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Welcome, welcome. State your name for the record. Thank you.
Dave Hegarty from Centerville.
All right, Dave.
Yeah, no, I thought somebody walked off with it, but I did find it.
Nice.
Okay, well, let me just first say that I'm happy that you cleared up the thing about the boats, because I know that I'm on Facebook, just like everybody else probably in this room, and woo, is that a hot topic? Let's face it, I couldn't care less about boats. You know, it's Cape Cod, have 2, 3, jet ski, who cares? I mean, I'm glad you cleared that up. But as far as the commercial vehicles and everything being run out of these neighborhoods, I don't even have a problem with that, if it's 2 or 3. But I do have a problem when we start going to 4. I think you have to set some kind of limit. There's a house specifically on Old Stage. I'm down the road from it, not that close. But every time I pass by it, there are literally 7 or 8 working vans all lined up. It's a business being run out of a house, and I have a real problem with that. You know, because if you don't set some kind of policies and parameters, I mean, anybody could do, you know, people are going to say, well, why can't I do it? They're doing it. And I don't know about you, but I really don't want to live next to 7 or 8 vans coming and going at all kinds of hours, depending on what the business is. And I just don't think that's fair. You know, a lot of my friends are a little bit upset. They're like, well, you know, what's the big deal? I said, well, if I wanted to live in a business zone, I would have, you know, bought something off of the industrial park or off 28 or 130. I just, you know, I have no problem with people supporting themselves. You know, hey, a lot of people are self-employed. 1, 2 vans, couple landscaping trails, but I think you have to set a limit as to what you think is fair. I mean, you know, you have to take everybody's perspective, you know. Like I said, and I'm very sensitive about this because on my road, I have 2 landscapers, a general contractor, a cabinet maker, a seamstress. We lost the daycare, and that's out of 13 houses on the road. Pretty high odds. But like I said, I have no problem. The landscaping guys are very respectful. They have 2 trucks, 1 trailer. Even the general contractor, he's got 2, sometimes 3 vans. I wish it was just 2. But I think you really, when you're cleaning all this up, you have to come up with a number that you think is fair. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Good evening. Welcome. Just state your name for the record. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jean Freeman, and I'm from Hyannis, Massachusetts. I am glad to hear there's some revisions coming because I also came in for that. I don't own a boat or a trailer or a camper, but you know, I feel strongly that people have the rights to own these types of things. Also, I do understand that, as mentioned earlier, this is a working class area. We do have to consider that it affects not only the workers, but also the owners of the businesses. I do see that there does need to be a balance as well. My concern, and is kind of maybe a separate issue, is on-street parking. In my neighborhood, there is a lot of on-street parking already of trailers, business vehicles, commercial vehicles, and then sometimes they put the commercial vehicles in their parking, you know, that they have with their residential property, but then they are putting their cars on the street. And so this is more of an issue for me. And I'm concerned that with nothing on the records of saying that they can't just then put it on the street, then we're just gonna have an increase of parking on street of these commercial vehicles. So please consider that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you.
I'm
Hello, welcome.
William Potter from Cotuit. Really, what I'm looking for is a little more clarification on what you talked about in the very beginning of the meeting. In that section 240, the trailers, and it comes down to, you define that, I assume recreational boats will not be included in this amendment. but only commercial vehicles. So the question is what happens to a boat that's used for a commercial purpose? I mean, the fishermen may go out there, maybe giving tours, whatever you're doing, but their boats are used for commercial purposes. Will this fall under this amendment or the prior one that deals with just recreational boats? So you probably need to do your homework on that and decide how you're going to deal with that. But I was coming here to see if you guys had addressed that. So boats for commercial, maybe it's a truck and a boat and that's it. I would think it would fall under recreational, but the definition between commercial and residential wasn't made clear. So all I'm looking for is clarification. All right, thank you.
Understood. Thank you very much. And again, that's one of the good things about shifting this to November, is I know staff is going to dig into this and work on the language a bit, so we'll get that clarification indeed. Welcome. Thank you for coming. State your name for the record.
My name is DJ Crook. I'm the email guy.
The email guy.
Yeah.
All right.
My intention wasn't to start a riot. I am chair of...
It's a good intention.
Yep. I am chair of the Shellfish Committee. So pretty much the way I went about it is I was informing all the members of the fishery that this was coming up. And like the last gentleman said, we have multiple boats, whether personal use or not, for our business. I mean, personally, I got 2 vessels, I got 3 vehicles. I also rent 3 spots for my business because I don't have enough room at my house to store 1,000 cages, 2 boats, 3 trucks, all the gear I need. So that was my initial send-off. But I think there's more to it. I mean, primarily I'm speaking here because you guys are present. Leave the tape measures in the truck. Like, we don't need a tape measure measuring trailers. It's your property. We should have some rights to what's on our property. It's already limited to 1 trailer. Why do we need a tape measure for it? Ever since COVID, lots of people became independents. I mean, it's just the way the Cape went. I mean, housing markets through the roof, commercial properties through the roof. I've been fishing for 9 years. I mean, one winter, my whole business is wiped out, you know? So we're working with what we have. And I think over time, you know, we need time to tell. It's whether the housing market drops or commercial areas become available, but it's tough. So I mean, I don't agree with all the regulations, but I don't want to add a regulation that can bite us in the future. And that's mainly why I sent the email to the fishermen. My permit is a town-issued permit. I have a right to operate out of my domicile as a town-issued fisherman. You know, there's certain regulations we have to follow that the public has no idea about, and that's under the state and town and the FDA. So, you know, my initial email was a warning to fishermen, but I think it involves a lot more than that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate your comments and understand your concern. Thank you very much. Welcome, good evening. State your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Michael Moynihan. I am a 56-year resident of the town of Barnstable, and I love my town. And I appreciate all the hard work that you guys do. It seems about every 10 years, a new group of concerned volunteers get on a committee assigned with the task to improve my lifestyle. However, they have not taken the time to get to know me, or my neighbors, or my workers, or my friends, many of whom like to spend weekends on Sandy Neck, which will require a 4-wheel drive vehicle in their yard, and maybe some other toys, or maybe a race on the weekends, or bring ski mobiles to New Hampshire. They like to trailer the bikes to New Hampshire, et cetera, et cetera. So there are lots of trailers besides boats that those of us that chose to live here in the town of Barnstable need to keep in our yards, because we do not want to rent from a third party. I am quite upset that I did not get to weigh in on the rule change that now prevents me from using the trailer I've owned from 10 years to bring my trash to my dump in my town. But I am determined to be here today to say, look, what you guys are proposing is not a good thing. Please think hard and fast about what you're trying to do here. I feel like this is an attempt to make my property subject to some arbitrary HOA rulings that I did not sign up for, and apparently have no say in what should or should not be allowed on the property that I pay full taxes on. I purchased my land with no restrictions. I do not feel it is the right of my town to then add restrictions at a later date because somebody has determined that what I choose to do on my own property is no longer acceptable to somebody on a planning committee. If you wish to live in a neighborhood where the majority dictate what is acceptable and proper, please purchase a home in a neighborhood with an HOA and run for president. Otherwise, please let me do with my property what I deem is appropriate. And if you do not wish to live with a mill building next to you, don't move into the mills. I think you should. These are now market rate to dictate what should be done. I get it. You have a hard task, but think of us. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you very much. Could you state your name one more time? I missed it at the beginning.
Michael Moynihan.
All right, thank you. Councilor Levesque, welcome.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for serving in this capacity. I was, before I became a town councilor, which will be 8 years in November, and I wish I could turn around. I'm sorry I have my back to you, but that's not the forum. But I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals for 3 years, so I was on a regulatory committee much like yours before I became a town councilor. Just trying to bring a little bit of clarification, and because I'm kind of responding to what has already been stated, it might be a little difficult for me because I'm doing it off the cuff, off the top of my head, and I don't have written comments. So, but just to touch on a couple of things, I believe it was Mr. Moran said that this needs to be cleaned up because it's, signed off by the town manager's office, whatever it might be, and therefore he's directed his directors to put forth, legal department, planning department, to put these things together, so on and so forth, and it wasn't done thoroughly. What I would say is it was rushed, and there was immense pressure. If anybody watched any of the town council meetings, there were certain councilors that were asking quite often, where are we standing with these enforcement regulations? And Andy Clyburn was tasked with putting a committee together with basically, which were the directors of the town, and then those directors receiving input from certain councilors to put some things together that, they felt needed to be in there. So that's pretty much what you're kind of seeing. There was no necessarily public process. It was what certain town councilors wanted to see. I'm not one of those town councilors. I was, I guess, appointed to that ad hoc committee. And so out of the 9, when they say it was 8 votes, I was the 9th person that didn't vote. And quite honestly, I didn't go to the meetings. And please understand that if the meetings took place at a different time and day, I would have been there, but they were on Fridays at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I worked. And even though I'm a town councilor, and I served the community in that capacity, and I have for 8 years. I served as president for 3 years. Friday afternoons at 3:30 are not a good time for, I would think, for most people on Cape Cod. I do understand that the communications department had to tape and this was the only time it could be. But I've also been accused of boycotting the meetings. And though I do disagree quite often with members of that committee on the dais and off the dais, that wasn't the reason why I didn't show up. It was because it was 3:30 in the afternoon. And by the way, the meeting started in July. So that means none of you could probably go to the meetings either to give your opinion about what was being discussed. The charge of the committee, by the way, was not enforcement. It was actually originally the president of the council at the time, Felicia Penn, wanted it to be about enforcement, zoning of the downtown area, and the regulatory agreements. But it was deemed that by the town attorney that enforcement is not in the lane of the town council, and that is in the lane of inspectional services, the building commissioner, and therefore it should not be discussed at those meetings. The chair, Bob Schulte, who spoke, decided it was fair game, and many people spoke, not many actually, just a few, spoke about enforcement issues, and they would come with their enforcement issues, and then those enforcement issues would be directed to the building building commissioner Brian Florence, and basically told, could you address this? So now the building commissioner is being told basically by the chair of the ad hoc committee meeting, ad hoc, who's not an elected official, that could you take care of these things? So again, it was not a proper channel, and eventually that was shut down. But the enforcement issues still existed. How are we going to handle this, I guess, was the question they still asked themselves, and therefore they put it through this committee that was, and again, the town manager and town manager's office and the directors, highly qualified individuals, usually the smartest people in the room. I listened to them when I was the president of the council, and I leaned on them, but they were directed to come up with these regulations and to do it quickly, because it needed to come before the council and therefore become before you in a fast manner. Now, as far as the zoning goes, it was a 2.5-minute meeting. It was a 2.5-hour meeting. I was the president. I presided over that meeting. But it had been discussed in nauseam. There had been a number of workshops in regards to that, this process. And Jim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, please do. But it was years in the making, that this form-based code, and it was something that had been talked about. Honestly, I was introduced to it by a gentleman, counselor in Osterville named Jim Crocker, who's been dead over 6 years, and he introduced me to that topic in 2018. So I know it's been ongoing since then, and it was moved through different committees, asked different opinions, whatever it might be. Just to say it was rushed is just false, And I remember talking to different individuals. Even on this committee, you know what I mean, long before it was even decided that we were going to move forward with it, and it became on the dais. The only reason why it was even delayed was because we weren't sure we were going to have a quorum issue, because there were a number of councilors who either owned property, had family that owned property within the district, so we couldn't move forward. I could go on and on with the history in regards to that. It was a lot of work, a lot of meetings, and it was vetted. And those 17 amendments, most of them were just cleanup type of things, or something talking about like caliper of trees. We weren't talking about heights of buildings. We weren't talking about, we didn't necessarily even talk about parking. You know what I mean? And now, if that needs to be tweaked, then please have a discussion. I've always been in favor of that. Let's talk about it. Things happening too fast, let's talk about it. The compromises to be made, absolutely. But, and then I just want to close and thank you for the extra time and thank you for the clarification. And I'm sure you'll see my face on Barnstable Official tomorrow morning. And just, that's a cesspool of knowledge, just by the way, if anybody's reading that type of stuff. But I just want to say that last thing is we are judged in our community by how we take care of our most vulnerable. And in this case, our most vital. And thank you, DJ, for mentioning this on Facebook. And in a way, I'm glad that this touched your boats, because it brought you out to see what is happening. That there are certain individuals who want to create an HOA in the town of Barnstable, and they're not listening to your voices or not asking you. They don't take it into consideration where you live. They don't take in, because quite honestly, they can pay it. They can pay the rate. you know? And some of them, we have town councilors that don't have to worry about college tuition and kids and the fact that my son moved away and will never return because he doesn't see a future here. All those things that need to be considered. And again, the most vulnerable. Now that we're not touching your boats, please stick around, you know, because they're touching someone's bobcat that they're trying to make a living to support their family. And maybe that work truck is their way they bring their kids to school. You know, let's think about those things. So thank you for listening, and I hope this clarifies it. And again, if Jim, if there's anything to correct what I said about the form-based code, please feel free. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Levesque. Appreciate those comments, sir. Welcome. State your name for the record. Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, friends.
If you hit the button, just to make the light go on.
Good evening, friends, and my name is John Julius. I live in Hyannis. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you for all of your service. I've spoken on a number of occasions. Tonight, I guess I'm going to take orders for the best T-shirt. It's either going to be leave the boaters alone or leave the tape measures in the truck. I'm not sure which. But on a serious note, quite honestly, the boat issue, it doesn't even belong on your platter. Last time I knew this is America. Last time I knew this is my town, their town. They pay taxes. People shouldn't be restricted from having a boat on their own property.
Yeah, again, there's no amendment to change anything
I
about
understand.
boat storage or
all
boat
I'm
trailer
doing
storage.
I understand that, Mr. Robichaud.
Okay. You're looking right at me and telling me to...
Yeah, but I'll look at all of you. I'm simply trying to stay ahead of the curve because there are way more important things in this town and way more important things than you as the planning board should be focused on. And it certainly isn't boaters. They deserve every right to have what they want in their property. They're the ones paying the taxes.
As I said, we're not focused on boaters.
A lot of years. Okay, well...
There's nothing here about boaters, boats,
that.
or boat trailers.
All right, then, okay, then so we can get on then to what your job really should be.
Thank you.
That's zoning. The zoning and the overbuilding and overdevelopment, I've said this at the town council, I'm almost tired. They might as well put a cot in the hall out there because I'm tired of coming here and saying this. Hyannis, the overbuilding and the overdevelopment, it's sickening. It's putrid. You've got 4-story buildings. The building next to the Burger King is going to turn into a 4-story. It's an old 7-Eleven. They're going to build a 4-story building there. That's your job. This is insanity to be allowing this kind of overbuilding, overdevelopment, overgrowth. When Hyannis is faced with now over a 2 million gallon per day water shortage. You don't believe me? I'll send you the report that all of our tax dollars paid for. So those are the things, in my opinion, that you should be focused on. How many more, we've got what, over 1,000, almost 2,000 units now of housing being overbuilt and overdeveloped in Hyannis? And yeah, you can look at me all you want, follow me out to my car, throw stones at me. I really don't care. I'm sick of it, and you know, that affects all of us. I have friends that own boats. They want to be driving down the road and sit in 3 hours of traffic trying to get their boat down to the dock. I don't think they do. So I'm just asking all of you to just take a step back, do your job. I know there was also some misinformation given at a recent town council meeting by someone. It talked about the 40B law, about we need more affordable housing, and he mentioned the 40B statute. The 40B statute is not a statute to build affordable housing. It's a statute to promote affordable housing, not to build. I wrote a letter in the Cape Cod Times 2.5 years ago, and there were 76 cities and towns in the Commonwealth out of 351 that had achieved the state's dream. It's a recommendation, not a dream, of 10% affordable housing. That was 76.
Please, you have 3 minutes.
All right, I'll wrap it up. I looked last week, 2 weeks ago, and that number now is down to 51. So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts could care less about to what percentage each town has, because if they did, the number would be going up, not down. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you again. Sorry for what I had to come, but the message is what it is. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you, John. Appreciate your comments.
Welcome, welcome. Good evening. State your name for the record.
How you doing? Eric Schwab, Hyannis.
And for the record, I want to say that form-based zoning is crap. Form-based zoning is ruining Hyannis. And everyone who came here tonight should drive down Main Street and drive by the old motel down there and tell me if you want to live next to that. You want to live next to a 4-story building, 2.5 feet from the sidewalk? 2.5 feet. The zoning was rushed. For 18 months, I went to that ad hoc committee on zoning. I took off early from work every Friday for that meeting. I made the time to go there. We had 14 people from Hyannis come and speak. It was not poorly attended. Everyone took time off from work to go and express their displeasure with the sloppy zoning that was forced through. And we're living with that mess. And we want it stopped. We want you to seriously consider the 4 recommendations that came out of that committee to slow down the building in Hyannis. Regarding Boatgate, okay, it's not about boats, it's about white vans. For 6 years, I had a dozen white vans with ladders in a 3-bedroom house in my backyard. There were so many people living in that house, I couldn't count them. The effort to curtail commercial trucks is not about boats. It's about living in a decent neighborhood and having some control on a 10,000 square foot lot. We don't have 2-acre zoning in Hyannis. We have 10,000 square foot lots, and they're being overrun by home occupations which are completely unlicensed, completely unregulated, and completely uninsured. I got vans in my backyard that say fully insured and licensed on the side of them. They ain't licensed. They're not paying taxes. They're not paying workman's comp. They're not paying anything. They're freeloading. Okay? The commercial truck zoning, which is causing all the trouble in Hyannis, needs to be addressed. If you can't address it in this amendment, and you can't address it in a way that doesn't piss everyone else off, then you got to go back to the drawing board, because we have a problem in Hyannis that needs to be solved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate your comments. Good evening, welcome. State your name for the record.
Thank you very much. My name is Malcolm Miller, and thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
I've recently started a business. I'm 3.5 years into it, and I started off keeping trucks and a couple trailers at my house. I understood that I was somewhat overstepping. I had 1 commercial vehicle and 2 trailers at my house. I would come home and I'd have an orange sticker on my door. I talked to one of the inspectors, Jeff Lozon, and one of the times he came to me, I said, the people across the street have had 4 box trucks in their backyard for the last 8 years. Across the fence, there's a tractor trailer, and a block over, there's a triaxle. I've got a 3-ton dump truck and a wood chipper that's pretty small. And I'm getting stickers on my door, and nobody else is getting stickers on theirs. And much like the gentleman who's a council member just spoke for like 6 minutes, he doesn't get called out on his time, but then this gentleman that stood up 2 before me gets called out right on 3 minutes. There absolutely is a problem in this town, and it needs to be run more effectively, whereas inspectors need to do their jobs. And if he's putting a sticker on my door, it's not a big deal for him to carry around 4 more stickers and put a sticker on the tractor trailer's door. It's not a big deal for him to put a sticker on my neighbor's door that's got 4 box trucks in his backyard and half his front yard is paved. There shouldn't be bias, and I encourage you guys to do a very detailed job rewriting this bill, or whatever you want to call it. I think just to add to, it's not a boat gate, but there are certain people that use trailers for different things. Oftentimes they are a landscape trailer. Sometimes it's a race car stuffed inside a landscape trailer, and that's the same recreational type of use as a boat would be, but it's gonna look like a landscape trailer. So just more things to take into consideration and write very detailed ordinances. Thank you for your time.
Well said. Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Welcome, welcome. State your name for the record. Thank you.
Sign in. My name is Susan Rome. I live in West Hyannisport, and I've lived there for 44 years. When the street was cut in from woods, it is about, I think we have 12 or 13 houses on the street, both sides of the street. It's short. I had a horrible problem last year. We've had this problem many years, but last year got so bad that I started calling the city inspector and the health department. As you come into my street off Old Town Road, a lot of people do know my street because we're now renowned for what I'm about to say. On the left, there's an investor-owned rental house, and the people come and go. This one's there, new cars, old cars, new cars. You never know who's living there. They park about 3 or 4 cars in a row, and they go on gravel, they go on grass, they go on anywhere they want. The health department came over, they wouldn't answer the door, and that was never followed up on. The house directly across the street from them, so I have to pass both of them every day. There's only one way in and one way out, so there's no avoiding this. And this house, after we researched it, was bought by an LLC that is off Cape, and I've been told that that off Cape license or whatever it is means that we can't do anything about this in Hyannis. And what they have are those big, giant, really tall white vans, and at the end of the day, 4 of them would drive up to park overnight, and then the others would leave sometime in the morning. They all had to get together, the workers. It was Nantucket stone. I don't mind saying what it is. And after all of the inspector coming, which he said he was the only inspector in all of Barnstable, very nice, he kept coming. They painted their vans white to get rid of the Nantucket Stone business sign on it. And there was, the town said there is absolutely nothing they can do about it. They're giant. One time they had such a big thing on the street because they couldn't fit all the vans in the driveway that we couldn't even I couldn't get to my house. So that being said, I'd like to address the landscaping portion of this. I think there is something in our ordinances about the percentage of driveway that is allowed as to the square footage of the whole front yard. I'd like you to become familiar with that because I can't really say exactly what it is. It's not enforced. I've asked why it's not enforced, and I got some crazy answer to that, well, whatever, it's a percentage. These cars, and I walk the whole neighborhood with my dog, the trucks, the vans, they're all parked on the middle of the grass. There is no amount of driveway, hardscape, enough to accommodate all of these on, as I think it was Eric said, 10,000 square foot lots.
Mr. Rome, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, so I will wrap it up. I think something has to be addressed about landscaping. The houses become disheveled, and I'm going to just say it's an eyesore for those of us who built our houses and maintain our houses. Thank you for your time.
Understood. Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate it. Welcome, sir. Thank you. State your name for the record.
My name's Thomas Long. I live in Centerville. I've lived here over 24 years. I'm a retired firefighter from ComFD. I was there for 21 and a half years. I'm just here to oppose the proposal on the table for allowing residents that don't live in an HOA neighborhood to have trailers on their property over 20 feet. I purposely chose my neighborhood just for that reason. I do have a small remodeling business and have trailers now, so this would affect me. Anyone else trying to make a living with self-employed business, it's going to affect them too. As a lot of these guys have already stated, some more eloquent than I did, but anyway, and also I'm worried about the people with RV trailers, people that work so hard to own these things to be able to take their families on adventures. Please don't do this.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate your comments, thank you. Welcome, thank you. State your name for the record.
How you doing? I'm Rod Tavano. I grew up here. Me and Mike grew up together. Spent a ton of time here on, boating and stuff on the Cape. I went to Cape Tech. All my friends are still operating as one-man band, plumbers, electricians, carpenters. I do understand some of the complaints about a lot of vehicles and stuff like that. I have 14 trucks. I own a small HVAC company on Cape Cod. I'm fortunate enough to have done well enough to own a couple of commercial properties. We can park those trucks legally and all that stuff, but I would really hate to see you making, there's just no place for people to put this stuff. I have friends that have been trying to get pieces of land to store boats, can't get permits to do it. So I don't mean to hop on the boat thing, but in my yard, I have a dump trailer and I have a snowmobile trailer. My son is a commercial fisherman. He has 3 boats in his yard and a pulpit for his boat. That's part of Cape Cod. So if you move to Cape Cod, you should expect to see that stuff. If you don't want to see it and you come here, you shouldn't be forcing or trying to force people to get rid of that stuff in their yard. They can't afford to put it anywhere. We're building all this, and I don't mean to get off base, but we're building all this high-density housing all over the place, especially in the industrial park. How about we take some of that and make a nice, inexpensive town parking lot for people's boat trailers and their campers and all that stuff? It's just getting out of control, and we can't just keep letting this is going to be Dorchester by the sea, and no place to park. There's no parking. I own the building right across the street from the 7-Eleven. I don't know exactly how many apartments are going in there, but it's all I hear is one car parking. No one person, unless you're making like $50, $60 an hour, can afford a $2,500 a month apartment. All those apartments are going to have 2 cars. There's no place to park them. They're going to be parking in all the town parking lots. It's just going to be a bit of a mess. And at some point in time, we got to really start addressing some of this stuff. So pretty much all I have to say.
Yeah, well done. I appreciate the comments. Thank you. Welcome. State your name for the record.
Hi, Demetrius Venatopoulos. I'm from Barnstable. I didn't come very prepared because I found out about this pretty late. But I think most of the gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, said almost everything we were all probably thinking. Mr. Tavano here just stole my thunder a little bit. I think that any amendment proposed for any of it, any of the parking in relation to your residential homes should be looked at again with this commercial umbrella in mind, and that being there's no parking for commercial vehicles. People can't afford commercial property like was stated earlier. There is no big parking lot with this high-density building. Like he said, maybe we make some land rental available. There's a lot of people that were in business prior to this being allowed, and I think it was negligence on all of our part, maybe the residents too, not showing up to town meeting to talk about the fact that, you have a business on Cape Cod, you need to be commercially zoned. if you're not commercially zoned, it used to not be allowed, you can put commercial vehicles. Well, we've exploded. The population has exploded, businesses have exploded, and nobody's addressed the fact that people are parking in their yards. And this chaos has now ensued, and people are getting upset because, hey, look at this guy over here is parking his trucks for 8 years, and I can't park mine. He's just trying to get started. You can't blame him for thinking that way. So this needs to be addressed at a macro level, obviously, and now we're getting into the neighborhoods, and now people are getting upset. So rather than create new unsustainable laws with unintended consequences that we haven't thought of yet, I think we need to address the bigger issue, and I think that is the fact that we have a big population with people that need their plumbing done, they need their landscapers, and these folks can't afford to live here unless they have a place to put their stuff. And if they don't leave it at home, you're not going to have those people to do the work. So I think that really needs to be addressed. I'm a trailer guy. That whole boat thing obviously started out that way, but I'm glad it got everyone's attention, because I heard someone else talk about the fact that a meeting was attended by 14 people, and that wasn't not well attended. I think there's a lot more people here because of the boats. So I think that's a good idea. I took like some small little notes. I said the unintended consequences. I mentioned that people like myself, let's just say, who rent a building, might not feel so great when someone's parking their truck on their front lawn and I have to pay for commercial property because I can't get a permit otherwise. I'm not sure how their permitting process went, but mine was pretty difficult. And I don't know if you're trying to get a commercial permit to run a commercial business out of a residential area, how that works. And I'm not looking to hurt anybody. I've got a lot of friends that do it. God bless them. I hope that they make it. But this is a bigger issue, and that needs to be brought up. I think that's pretty much it. I think that the chaos, though, and I think that the fact that we haven't addressed these issues sooner has created this issue, and it's creating turmoil amongst people. Let's just say like myself, I'm probably going to have a lot of guys mad at me because they park their cars on, their trucks on their lawn. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just trying to point out the bigger issue. It's going to actually put citizens against each other as opposed to just fixing the underlying issue before we go create more legislation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate the comments. Welcome. State your name for the record.
Ryan Caholen, West Barnstable. So I heard a lot about business owners, small business owners, and I think it's great. I understand the struggles that they're feeling, certainly hearing that they can't find commercial parking space, and that's fine. I don't own a business. I don't run a business out of my home. I'm a residential homeowner. I have 3 trailers. I have heavy equipment. I have a boat. Why? Because I do. Because it's my property. And really, the comments I've heard tonight, nothing makes me want to go out and buy a triaxle tonight just to buy one, just to park in my yard, because I can do that. I have 2.5 acres. I don't feel like I need the town dictating to me what I can park on my property. If it's in a designated parking area, hardscaped, and not on the lawn, why is it your business? To be totally honest. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration. And I strongly urge, as you reinvent the language behind all this, pay close attention to the definitions. How are you defining these trailers? Because I've heard that boat trailers were part of it. A trailer is a trailer is a trailer. And if the wrong neighbor is pissed off, they're going to say you can't have a trailer more than 20 feet. They don't care if there's a boat on it or not. They're just going to do that. So be very careful about how you define what exactly you're trying to fix. But again, someone pays their taxes, excise tax on the trailer. I don't really think it's any of the town's business. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Thank you very much. Welcome. State your name for the record.
My name's Charlie Rolfe from Marshall's Mills. Adding on to what Ryan said here, if you'd like to buy a triaxle, we can talk about it after the meeting.
Got one for sale? Okay.
I own Rolfe Excavation. I'm a 21-year-old business owner. And a lot of people said here tonight that not a lot of us can afford to park equipment somewhere else. I've spent a lot of my life savings and time since I've gotten out of high school to be able to get where I'm at today. And I did park a lot of my stuff at my house, and I'm very fortunate enough to know a lot of people in the community where I can now park my equipment. but not being able to park it at the house does hurt a little bit. Got to go a little further away from home. And I'll admit it, I'm not the quietest neighbor in the neighborhood, but I try to be respectful. And just being able to park equipment and everything at the house that we pay taxes on, we build, and it hurts. Yeah, it does hurt a little bit. And I'm not very prepared tonight because I didn't plan on speaking here, but I figured I'd come and speak my piece. And it does not being able to park everything at the house. It's a little tough, and yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Great comments. Thank you very much. Welcome. State your name for the record.
Matthew Prescott. Hi, I'm Matthew Prescott. I'm a small business owner. I'm a 22-year Barnstable resident in Marston Mills. This commercial parking sort of broad sweep overreach by the town, this is going to drastically affect the smallest of the small businesses that are out there, the people that I afford my home and have built my home by running this business to take care of my family. I have 3 very well-kept pickup trucks that would be covered under this broad sweep of commercial vehicles. I've got snowmobile trailers, boat trailers. My property is easily one of the best kept within a mile in almost every direction. And I take care of my neighbors. We have a ton of small businesses that are your local firefighter that has a small landscaping business that he runs 2 or 3 days a week. He's not going to go find commercial space and rent for his 1 6-wheel dump truck, a 1-ton pickup truck, and a couple small trailers. It's just not going to happen. You're going to put him out of business. And then so he can't live on Cape Cod. And then I can't live on Cape Cod. And then we'll see more and more of what she had talked about, these houses that are bought up by shell LLCs that when you look into them are actually owned by State Street, BlackRock, and Vanguard. And you're turning rentals everywhere, and you have people coming in and out of our neighborhood that don't care about them, and you have a complete change of the dynamic of the Cape. If we don't take care of the smallest people that are out there, then when you don't have that small landscape company, or for myself, I'm a farrier company, I put shoes on horses, then you're going to start bringing people in from further away. And the cost to maintain your property and the next property and to fix your HVAC, it just went up. Because now someone that lives off Cape is having to send their company down because it's easy for them to get commercial space. They can come down, but they've got to charge double. And these are the realities you face when we knock out these little guys. And I get the argument of, you have 20 vans parked on a half-acre lot, and, perhaps somewhere in there, there's a line. But it cannot be this broad sweep of town overreach for property that I pay taxes on. This won't work for anyone, and even folks unlike myself that are recreationally, they've got an RV, they've got campers, just like everyone else said. These things all fall under this massive macro broad sweep. They won't work. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Welcome. State your name for the record.
Jack Riley. Pretty disappointed when I read through this, outside of just boating. I'll be fairly transparent. I'm a fireman here in this community. I'm a Hyannis fireman. I'm the type of person this is going to affect, right? So I grew up here. I'm a 29-year resident. Grew up in Marston's Mills. Barnstable High School is my high school. All my summer jobs were in Hyannis. I was a lifeguard for the town. I worked at Spanky's. I went to school, and I came back, and I made a conscious decision to be in this town. I wanted to serve this community. I could have been a fireman in Plymouth or Wareham or Boston, but I wanted to come back to the Cape. And I knew that meant I was probably gonna have to live at home for a couple of years, and I might not afford a great house. And I bought a fixer-upper. I'll be fairly transparent here again. My mortgage, I bought a $500,000 house with 10% down because that's all I could afford, right, at a high interest rate. I pay $1,000 a week in bills. My mortgage is $3,000. My car payment's $500. My gas and electric is $400. I have a dog. He needs to eat too. I'm living on like $300 a week, right, after all my bills. So what did I do? I went on YouTube. I learned a trade. I learned to install fence. I advertised on Facebook, and I built a business. I bought a trailer last year, which is about 20 feet long, and I'm going to have to buy another trailer. What I did do, and like Rolf Construction's one of my neighbors, and I drive by his house all the time. It looks great. He has a fence out front, right? So not every situation is this terrible looking. I built a side driveway. It looks beautiful. I have my 2 trailers parked neatly there, right? So there are people that are doing this right. I would hate to see this affect the small person. I will never be big enough to have a commercial property. I do this on my 4 days off because I want to maybe one day get an RV or a boat or a trailer. So this is something that would really affect me, and not only me, I work with several guys that also have businesses. So I hope you guys can really consider this. There are people that are doing it right. There are, on my road alone, I have a carpenter, a cabinet maker, a window specialist. I own a fence construction company, and every single guy's property looks great. Their trailers are backed in, their yards are maintained, and I honestly, when I drive by, I don't even think twice about it. So I think we really should look at this. It shouldn't be a broad overreach, and maybe the couple problem areas, maybe it's time to address those problem areas and not everyone else in the town, because these are the people that you might lose. Do I want to go to Plymouth and buy 10 acres? No, I want to live in the community I work in, I grew up in. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great comments, thank you. Appreciate that. Great comments. Thank you. Welcome, welcome. Come on down. State your name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Sean Roycroft. I live in Centerville. I'm a Quahog, born and raised here on Cape Cod. Lived here my whole life. Also a retired police officer, served the town for 35 years. So, and I also own my own business, building business for 10 years. Listening to a lot of the different comments here, it's a small business, guys. The guys with a couple trucks parked on the property. I don't see a problem with that. I heard somebody mention, somebody with 20 vans parked on their property. I don't consider that a small business. If I had to live next door to somebody with 20 vans, it's where my house is, it's a problem. It might be an area of the town where it's not a problem. I don't think throwing a blanket over everything is going to solve the problem. I think it's going to create more problems. I did come down to touch on the boat issue. It's been taken care of, so we don't need to make a comment on that.
Appreciate that.
I do want to just mention RVs. I've had RVs in the past. I plan on buying another one. Now I'm kind of holding off a little bit to see where this goes, because I don't want to have to pay to park it off property. Like a lot of these guys have said, I have a decent sized piece of property. I've set it up where I can fit an RV, and I'd like to do that. I'd like to keep that there. But like a lot of these people have said here tonight, there's definitely some problems with the zoning and some of the commercial vehicles and some of the things that you see going on around town. There's no doubt about it. And I don't blame the people in town that are upset with the 20 vans that they have to live next to. I haven't seen any of the issues where there's, tractor trailer units or things like that parked in people's yards, but we all know how loud those are. I could see that being an issue. But the small business guys, the guys that are working out of trailers, I don't care if the trailer's 20 feet or 40 feet. If they can fit it on their property, and most of these guys, they're taking care of their properties. There's no problem with that. Let these guys continue to run their businesses the way that they do. If we don't, it's going to be a bigger problem. Without a doubt, it's going to be a bigger problem here because they're going to leave. They're going to go someplace else. We all know how hard it is and how expensive it is to live here on the Cape. I raised my family here. Like I said, I was born and raised here. Things have changed a lot. I'm 60 years old now, and it's changed a lot in my lifetime. So take your time, get it right. I myself am going to attend these meetings going forward. I'd like to be a part of it, and let's get it right. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate your comments and your involvement. Thank you. Welcome, welcome. State your name for the record.
Yes. Let me just give you the name. My name is Cliff Carroll, lifelong resident of Barnstable. I was in the mortgage business for about 40 years. I probably financed about 10,000 houses over 40 years here. There's probably 15 or 20 folks here I did business with over the years. And then I retired and I went into the real estate business about 5 years ago. When I grew up here I grew up down in Barnstable Village. It was all apple orchards and cow pastures and corn farms back then. That was the part-time job. It was blue collar. That's how much change has gone on. I know a lot of you on this board, and I know a lot of you are in the trades, and I know a lot of you probably pickup truck driving guys and understand that some of these guys work for you. But I think there's a bigger problem here, and it's not with the planning board in particular. It's the town of Barnstable. We need balance, and we need to have a larger plan. I know there's a reaction to the zoning. A lot of the gentlemen in this room, everybody keeps talking about bringing jobs to the Cape. These are the guys that are employing a lot of people. Yeah, they live in their property, but they also have a lot of employees that don't live in the property. But we need balance, and the town of Barnstable owns a lot of property. And one of the biggest problems, I have an industrial property for sale up in Thornton Drive. They're building 300-unit apartment complexes in what was zoned for industrial land. They're squeezing these guys into their yards. There's no balance on it. We've got the airport sitting over there. Half of it's unbuildable because it's polluted. Why don't we designate some land there and allow boat parking, allow trailer parking, allow these guys to have an affordable place to bring their equipment and allow them to get out of their neighborhoods? There are some bad actors. 10 or 12 trucks a yard is incredible. But also, if you go to build a commercial property, you have to have a tree buffer. There are a lot of different little guidelines that could go along with someone if they do want to have a business at their home. But I'm just saying as a balance, overall balance. Mr. Julius mentioned the water issue. You got a shortage of water, and that's a legitimate beef. The Barnstable Water Commissioner sent a letter into the town about the shortage of their wells and how they're hitting the maximum, and yet another 300-unit building got approved. Not only did it get approved, but it got improved in what was once designated as industrial property. So I think the town needs to look at other properties they own, the airport, the industrial, the big vacant lots. They need to stop allowing developers, when it's easier to get a 300-unit apartment approved than it is to build a small warehouse facility. There's a problem with that. What's going on in Hyannis is a microcosm of what's going on in town of Barnstable. We've become the dumping ground for all the Cape. We handle the hospital, we handle the health areas, we handle all the problems here in the Cape. We need to slow it down overall. We need to get a master plan. We have a lot of different areas where people could be parking these equipment at an affordable price on land that the town already owns. Like I said, at the airport, quite a bit of it's already polluted. You're not going to be going over there with anything else. You have 2 runways and you got, I don't know how many acres, 100 acres maybe. But there's a lot of other ideas we could do. I would encourage the board tonight to table this, vote and table this, and maybe take a lot of this input that you've received tonight, but also reach out beyond the neighborhoods and look at what the town already owns and come up with some creative and affordable areas where people maybe could rent a spot for, 5 trucks for $200 a month, that type of thing, and give a little relief to the neighborhoods and stop building apartment complexes and industrial property. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate what all of you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cliff. Appreciate your comments. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? General public comment? Public comment. Come on down. Welcome, welcome. State your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Josiah Bartley. I'm late because I was working. This is a thing that affects me personally because I filed to start a business on Friday out of my house. So that sucks. But that's not why I'm here, because we already did the boat thing and the commercial thing has been hammered. I'm here to talk about the unregistered vehicles. My hobby, I live on Cape Cod, and I like racing. So I got a couple unregistered cars. One of them is in the garage. There's some other floating around, on other properties, but they're unregistered. They will never go on the roads because they're caged. They don't have headlights. They don't fit any laws. They would never go on the road. This affects that hobby. So on my property, I have a car, a boat trailer. Boat is on the trailer, sorry, and a race car. And then I have a commercial pickup truck, and my brother-in-law lives with me, and he has a commercial van. So that's 5 of the potential 2 I could have if this went through. So that was my bit. Unregistered cars, not all of them are, the weed growing horrible piles of crap that everyone pictures. When you see a cartoon picture of an unregistered car, it's kids at college, can't drive his car for a year, so it sits. It's mom's in the hospital, so car sits. It's knucklehead spends all his savings on Facebook Marketplace buying silly cars occasionally, and the cars sit until they go to the racetrack, and we crash them up, and you never see them again. Thank you so much.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you. All right, while we wait to see if anybody else comes down, I just wanted to mention 2 things. The first is that, based on the comments here, I do feel the decision to continue this item in November is the right decision because, first and foremost, it allows us to take the time and to get it right and give it the due diligence that it deserves. The second thing I wanted to mention is simply I wanted to reiterate the planning board's role. The planning board is an advisory board that advises and offers recommendations to town council. So any zoning amendment comes to us, is handed to us, and we are asked to review it, vet it, give it some due diligence, and decide whether or not we want to offer a positive or a negative recommendation on that item. Ultimately, it's town council that is responsible for approving any zoning amendment. In order to do so, they do need a 2/3 majority. It's not a simple majority of the town council, it's a 2/3 majority. The reason I wanted to mention this is that there is a second chance for public input at town council. Any zoning amendment at planning board has obviously robust public hearing. And then at town council, there is a second public hearing where your voice can be heard as well. Planning board here with these zone amendments, we are not proposing anything. We are simply reviewing zoning amendments that were put before us. And the last thing I want to mention, I've been on this board almost 6 years, and anytime we look at a zoning amendment, public comment is something that we take very, very seriously. It's at the top of our list in terms of what factors we look at. We consider quality of life, and we consider any and all comments that come before us. So can't thank you all enough for these comments. And again, you're going to have that second opportunity at the planning board on November 10th, 2025, here in this room at 7 p.m. And then from there, we will offer either a positive or negative recommendation to town council. Town council does not necessarily need to heed our recommendation. However, again, once it does reach them, you are allowed additional public comment at town council. Okay. Again, any additional general public comment? Okay. We are going to, oh, welcome.
Hi, my name is Brian Croker, Marston's Mills.
Thank you, Brian.
I just want to say, I work for a plumbing company, and we can bring the vehicles to the shop, but we are 24-hour emergency service. So if I have to leave my house for a call in Marston's Mills, I got to drive all the way to Dennis, get the truck, drive all the way back to Marston's Mills, then drive all the way back to Dennis to drop it off. That's going to be a very expensive service call for someone who's got no heat, flooded basement. And it's the same with all the guys that take the trucks home, the commercial truck. A lot of them have, whether a race car and a trailer, a motor home to go camping, go to Sandy Neck, but now can't bring, I don't know, there's a limit on how many you can bring, but it's going to be an expense if we can't bring service trucks home. So that was it. Thanks.
Great comments. Appreciate that. Excellent. Okay, last call before we move on to some of the more boring items on our agenda this evening, an A&R and a special permit. Seeing none, we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then we're going to come back and start with that A&R. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to reconvene here, get on to our next agenda item this evening. All right, so we have closed out our general public comment this evening, and we're moving on to our first official item this evening, which is an approval not required plan. And Matt, do you mind reading this approval not required plan into the record?
Sure. Approval not required plan. The Katuitt Fire District has submitted a plan for 56 and 64 High Street, Katuitt, Mass, entitled 56-64 High Street, Katuitt, Mass, COMM Fire District for approval.
Excellent, thank you very much. The board is in receipt of a staff report dated September 10th, 2025. And if we have the applicant with us, thank you for coming. State your name for the record.
My name is Jake Fricke. I'm with Cape and Islands Engineering, here to represent the fire department.
Excellent, thank you.
So what we have before you is a very simple merger of two parcels on High Street. Each of these two lots is undersized, and when we merge them together, the resultant lot will still be undersized, but as it is larger than the two smaller lots, it is less non-conforming than the existing situation. It does meet the required frontage. The total will be 174 feet on the street, and the purpose of this is just for the benefit of the fire department to allow them to have more space to park their trucks.
Makes sense. Excellent. Staff, anything to add?
Only thing to add, as you find in your staff report, this is on a public way with adequate access and proper frontage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Looks very straightforward. Just a reminder, any motion on this item, we will be reading the findings found in the staff report prior to the second. Go to the board for questions, comments, concerns. Michael, anything?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Mary?
All set.
Ray?
No comments.
Matt?
Nothing.
Tim?
The only comment I have on the plan, it looks like there's a diagonal line with a bound mark on the, I think, southwest corner here. Is that a new line to make shape factor, or is that the existing parcel?
You mind if
Just if you're going to speak into the mic.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
The mentioned diagonal line is an existing line. It's just a funny little tail on the adjoining property.
Okay, so that is part of that original parcel?
That is.
Okay, thanks, that's all.
Great. We'd look for a motion. Any final comments, questions, concerns? Sir, anything to add? Thank you for coming. State your name for the record.
Shane Clark, Deputy Chief of the Katuitt Fire Department. I just wanted on the record that you read in, it mentioned the Com Fire District. It's the Katuitt Fire District. It's two different municipalities.
Understood. Let the record show we are correcting.
Katuitt, yeah, the write-up had COMM, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it did. The plan, does the plan still say that?
Yeah.
Oh, no, the plan
the
does
plan does not
the plan
say
is
it.
correct. The plan is correct. Just the write-up was incorrect, but we will, the recorded plan will reference the
Okay.
Katuitt Fire Department.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Glad you caught that.
Great. Any final questions, comments, concerns before we look for a motion? Okay, Matt?
I'll make a motion that we approve the approval not required plan as submitted, subject to the following findings, that this plan qualifies as an approval not required plan because it does not constitute a subdivision, because each of the lots have minimum required frontage on an existing way, having suitable grades and adequate construction to provide for the needs of vehicular traffic in relation to the proposed use, and for installation of municipal services to serve such use, or has been labeled non-buildable, and all materials and conditions of Chapter 801, Article 4, approval not required plans have been submitted and are in full compliance.
Excellent. We've got a motion to endorse.
Second.
We have a second from Ray. Thank you very much. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim? Aye. And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate that. Moving right along, we have a special permit on our agenda. Tim, you want to read the special permit in?
Certainly. This is Bornbaum Associates LLC have submitted a request for a special permit for the properties located at 337 and 345 Main Street, Hyannis, for a new curb cut. This is an open public hearing because we opened this at the last meeting.
Forgot about that. Good point. Thank you. So the public hearing is open. Excellent. Thank you. We have the applicant with us here this evening. We are in receipt of a staff report dated September 8th, 2025. Thank you for coming. State your name for the record.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Patrick Nickerson, for the record, attorney for the applicant, Bam Associates LLC. I'm an attorney with the law office of John W. Kenny, who is back from his European vacation here, first day back at work. According to his body clock, it's probably in the tune of 2 a.m. or so. So bear with us both. To his left is Brian Yergatian, the engineer on the project from the BSC Group. Seating 2 rows behind them both is Marcello Malegny, the principal of Bam Associates, the manager, rather, and very excited to present to you the special permit tonight, requesting a special permit for the properties at 337 and 345 Main Street, Hyannis. This property has been closely scrutinized by the Main Street Waterfront Historic District Committee, as well as site plan review. We have received formal site plan review this past Friday, September 18th, but as of this moment, we've not received a formal letter. But don't be alarmed, because as a condition of granting the special permit, all conditions of informal site plan review and formal site plan review would be incorporated into a favorable decision of your special permit this evening, should you feel that granting one would be appropriate. So just to review, again, we're located in the DMS. There's 2 parcels, 337, 345 Main Street. Those are identified as map 327, parcels 111 and 112. The current property of 337 Main Street is improved by an existing building containing approximately 8,254 square feet of area. It is vacant. It was condemned by the fire department approximately 10 years ago. It is not salvageable. And this past February or March, the Hyannis Main Street Waterfront Historic District Committee unanimously approved its demolition due to its state. This is a note we provided to the Main Street Historic District Committee, and also included in our presentation for you this evening, laying out the number of issues that existed 10 years ago and have worsened in today's date. We've also included some existing views of the building from Ocean Street and Main Street. To summarize, the proposed building will include first floor restaurant space containing approximately 3,860 square feet. On the second, third, and fourth floors will be spread across 22 2-bedroom dwelling units. To the rear of the retail restaurant space along Ocean Street underneath the building, but not below ground, will be 25 parking spaces. A number of improvements will be made in accordance with the project, including improved sidewalks on Main Street, Ocean Street, pending town approval. As part of the Hyannis Main Street Waterfront Historic District Committee, there were some concerns about relative size and scale of the proposed building. And again, I understand it's not necessarily with your purview this evening, given our request for special permit for a curb cut, but I thought best for this board's review and for the public's review to show how the building will feel walking past it. One of the interesting architectural features of this proposed project is that the 4th story is essentially built into the roof line, so that the 4-story building appears like a 3-story building, and that from Main Street really appears only to be a 2-story building. Again, there's additional views here and here, and then along Ocean Street here. So as you see to the left of this rendering, this is the location of the garage door, which will allow a point of access for vehicles entering underneath the building and exiting the building along Ocean Street. If you just give me 1 minute, I will pull up the site plan for you showing our proposed curb cut. Okay, so the proposed curb cut is located To the rear of the building, along Ocean Street, it is proposed to be 24 feet wide from the radius shown here on the plan. That's the maximum width allowed for curb cuts in the DMS. It will allow for two-way vehicular traffic into the building here. Another point of entry is located to the rear of the building. This is a town-owned parking lot to the rear. Another point of access will enter through the building from Ocean Street here. As part of the redevelopment, the applicant will be in negotiations and discussions with asset management regarding the relocation of the town curb cut, which does encroach onto the applicant's property. The curb cut will be relocated lower to the town-owned lot, and the curb cut will be installed here, which is, I would submit, is a very safe distance away from the pedestrian crosswalk along Ocean and Main. Of course, no one would want to put a garage bay fronting on Main Street, so we felt that Ocean Street would be more appropriate. You have been presented with a staff report, which provides that per section 240, 24.1.5D, 0.7C of the town ordinance, new curb cuts require a special permit, and that per section 240, 24.1.6B, 2C, in order to grant a special permit, the planning board must find that the project is consistent with the Hyannis Design and Infrastructure Plan, where, as stated in your staff report, the following applicable recommended strategies include reduce, combine, eliminate curb cuts. The access and egress to the site shall be located in safe locations away from intersections and, where possible, downstream of pedestrian crosswalks on one-way streets. You could find that this project involves the creation of new housing units and a redeveloped commercial space, promoting the following strategies, which are providing housing that supports a mix of income levels and provides both ownership and rental housing, and supports locally owned businesses and business that employ Cape Cod residents. So to summarize, we feel that the proposed redevelopment meets the Hyannis Design and Infrastructure Plan as proposed, and that this board could issue a special permit for the 24-foot curb cut as shown on the plan submitted with our application. That does conclude my initial presentation. I'll reserve any remaining time to answer questions and also make my team available for questions as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Great presentation. Thank you very much for that. Jim, Kyle, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so I just want to touch on just real quickly. So as the applicant mentioned, under 240-24-15D7C, a curb cut is required. A new curb cut is required to have a special permit or seek a special permit. And really that is because of the environment that is downtown Hyannis, and when updating the zoning, there was special consideration about minimizing curb cuts, especially on Main Street. And so working with the applicant, we suggested that Main Street, not be a viable option, and I thank the applicant for considering that and working with the town to better align that curb cut. The curb cut that is proposed before you is the farthest distant from the intersection, as in response to comments that were made by both Planning and Development and DPW during informal site plan review. I will lastly note that the secondary entrance, which is not a part of this curb cut, but the secondary entrance, it was suggested during site plan review, and the correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the applicant agreed to this condition, that you'll find on the updated staff report number 5, seeking an agreement with the town to provide adequate access on the southern elevation there. That access would guarantee, in perpetuity.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'll lead off with some questions and comments. That condition number 5 is key. That's the one that I kind of noted. And the key line for me is an agreement shall be executed prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit. So obviously got to get that done before anybody can move in. So I understand that the parking is underneath the structure. Is that at ground level or below grade?
It's at ground level.
Ground level, understood. And In terms of the garage doors, I mean, I think that that's an excellent design to, kind of screen things from the public. And as you pull up to the garage door, I assume you swipe some sort of a key card and the garage door opens?
So there's a number of options to address that, one of which, and the simplest, would be that each resident receives a transponder for inside the vehicle to both open and close the garage door.
Got it. Can you talk about the sight lines from that new curb cut? Would you consider them to be safe and adequate?
Brian?
Good evening. For the record, Brian Urgation, professional engineer with BSC Group. Yes, we do, and it's a very flat, and the sight distance is not obscured, so yes, we do.
Excellent, excellent. And then last is just in terms of the town lot, just looking at the overhead versus the proposed, are there improvements that are going to be made to the town lot as part of this project?
There are a number of them, and those would be at the applicant's sole expense.
Great. Okay, happy to hear that. Looks like we have a willing participant here and partner in this project, so great job so far. Congrats on the site plan review. And that's it for me. Michael, any questions, comments, concerns to share?
Not really. I just want to say thank you for this. This is amazing. I love it. Finally something beautiful is gonna be in that. So, great job.
A great design. Thank you, Michael. Mary?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. On your Ocean Street entrance, is it, because you've got the entrance to the public parking lot, so where is your entrance to parking? Is it?
There are two. There is.
Not from the parking lot, but from the Ocean Street side.
It's shown here on the plan. I've tried to zoom it in. I can try and scroll over here, but it's located to the rear of the building. It's a 24-foot wide curb cut intended to provide two-directional access both in and out.
So it's like 50 feet from the entrance to the public parking spot?
Brian,
is that right?
Brian, can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's a little bit more than 50, and I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't
Okay,
know
no,
the
that's
actual
okay. I'm
number,
just
but
trying to get a sense of, because across the street, you've got a couple of parking access to, I think, a couple of restaurants that are there.
Maybe I can pull up the GIS map. And we can-
And then I guess my question was the flow, right? Is everyone on that Ocean Street entrance, are people able to go in and out?
yes, it's a
Or is
two-way.
it you come in one and you go out another?
No, it's a two-way, and you can't, if you go in on the Ocean Street, you can only go out on the Ocean Street, and same thing for if you come in from the
Because they're two
town
parking
parking lot.
lots.
Correct.
Okay, got
The
it.
curb cut on Ocean will service, I think, 12 vehicles, 12
Okay.
spots.
And the,
Okay.
and the entrance through the town lot will service 13. There will be a dividing wall.
Okay, that's what I thought it was just one and you could go in and out of both. That's
No.
helpful. And then, is there any pedestrian access in through the Ocean Street garage?
No.
Okay. And then I didn't know what the improvements that were going to be done for the,
For the parking lot?
yeah.
So it will include relocating 3 handicap spots, which are presently here. You can see them faintly shaded here.
Yeah.
There will include a large new sidewalk, which will be constructed to the rear of the building. Relocating the handicap spots will make them more compliant with the ADA requirements because there is right now no dedicated access aisle allowing safe access from those spots to a sidewalk. The sidewalk will extend basically over to the boundary of the town-owned lot. There will also be restriping, repaving of the lot to account for the relocation of spaces associated.
The entire lot?
The entire lot.
Restriping, repaving the entire lot?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good. And then any electric vehicle charging in your?
Brian, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I don't believe we have any planned.
Just curious as a owner of an electric car.
That's a good question.
That's good. I'm all set. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mary. Good questions. Ray?
I think Mary covered everything that I had questions on.
Perfect.
Good job.
Appreciate it. Matt, anything to add?
I'll be quick. Signage or an enunciator for pedestrians?
I'm sorry?
Signage or an enunciator, warning light, some sort of thing. I don't know, that might have been a site plan review thing, but I mean, the door rolls up, usually there's some sort of annunciation that a car is going to come whipping in when you're walking down the sidewalk.
Like a blinking light or
Yeah, it's usually, yeah, it has an audible signal or a flashing light. I would highly recommend you look at that.
Okay.
And it may have come up in site plan review, but it's, I think it's, I almost got smoked once in Boston. So, just speaking from experience.
That's a good note. Anything else, Matt? All set? Okay. Tim?
The only question I have is during the site plan review, if there was any comments from the fire department for turning radius, or if they had any anticipated want for access down there, or if they were okay with the width of the curb cut and the radius in there.
Those comments were addressed through site plan review. There is a turn truck template plan, which was submitted through formal site plan review that met the satisfaction of the fire department. And whether the fire truck access is sort of operating in conjunction with the relocated town curb cut, if you will. So the town curb cut's coming off of our client's property, so it's fully on town property, whereby the parking spaces will be reconfigured and realigned. There'll be an expected loss of 7, which is something we've been negotiating with asset management about in consideration of all the improvements to the lot. But we expect that it will flow much better, provide safer pedestrian access, especially for those who are seeking a handicap parking space.
Okay, great. And so that 24-foot curb cut for this project, that works with the fire department? You know, it's not like you just got that comment.
No, it does work, correct.
Okay. Great, thank you.
And sorry, one other thing, just to clarify, we were actually given an updated turning template for the Hyannis Tower truck. So we have use the latest and the greatest, so that movement can be, the trucks will enter through the more northerly, and then they'll go their way around counterclockwise, and then exit. The truck would enter out the southerly curb cut.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Yeah, great. I appreciate that. I just have 2 final things. One is for Jim, the draft condition number 8, rights of the special permit must be exercised within 2 years. What's the mechanism for exercising that right? Is it the building permit or the occupancy permit?
That's correct. Building permit for the site.
Great. And the last thing is I just wanted to confirm, it appears that the distance from the Ocean Street, Main Street intersection to this new curb cut is the maximum distance that you could come up with. It seems like you've gone as far away from the intersection as possible. Am I right in that?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I appreciate you doing that. That maximizes the safety. So, great. Any other comments before we look for a motion?
I think
All set?
Well,
we're gonna go
Mr.
to
Chairman.
public comment, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yes, up next is public comment. If anybody here this evening would like to comment on this special permit item, come forward, state your name for the record. Thank you very much.
How you doing? Eric Schwab, Hyannis. It's a beautiful building. My compliments. It's too big. It's too dense. Will create unsafe conditions on Ocean. What do you do when you go into a parking lot? You slow down. When you turn into a parking lot, what do? You probably hit your brake. So, well, I understand this is the maximum distance, but you're going to have cars braking and stopping on Ocean Street. Okay? Also, this design is not in compliance with 240-24.1.5 standards for all districts. A landscape buffer of at least 10 feet wide must be provided between any building and any parking lot with 10 or more parking spaces. Okay? It doesn't say on your property or one property. It's any parking lot. Okay, it's 240-24.1.5. So you're going to need to address that in your conditions. I would say that this building is too dense, the parking is unsafe, and it's non-compliant with town code. So please send this back until they get the parking right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schwab. Appreciate your comments. Welcome, Councilor Lutke. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Let me just sign in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of take off where Matthew Teague had mentioned. I'm a little bit concerned with the entrance to this parking garage being right on that sidewalk that has been previously looked at as the pathway to the sea with some murals and things on the side of the building. And I think about the west end of Hyannis, if you're familiar, where we redid the movie theater, and there's some beautiful condominiums in there, absolutely beautiful. And if you've ever seen where they're parking, maybe you don't know where they're parking because it's so disguised. They park like this. You come in off of C Street, and there's a psychic office there, and you turn in. And my whole point is you do turn in. You get your car completely off the road with then some. You could almost put probably 2 cars there, and they probably have some sort of device that was mentioned. And if you're there when they happen to be coming or going, a big old door opens up, and you can see a huge parking garage under there, and they go in. I'm concerned that there's not much space there. I am concerned about pedestrians. Have we looked at this when we did the site plan review? And Jim's where this is going to be a 2-way street, correct, Jim? Have we looked at this?
That's correct. And yes, we have looked at it in that regard, yes.
Because I'm a little bit afraid of getting back up with 2 parking lots, the parking lot for the building and the parking lot that's owned by the town, our one-pay parking lot with a stoplight there. Is it still going to be a stoplight? It's going to be a stop sign. But then that might be a little bit better if it's going to be a stop sign, but until that happens, I'm just worried with people going through and maybe having numerous stops there. But I'm just concerned with the tightness that, I don't know, can the designer speak to that? Can you turn all the way in while you're waiting for the door to open or not? Are you still... Maybe have the tail of your car on the street, on the sidewalk. What is? I can't really see it, but that's my concern. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Any other members of the public like to speak to this? Come on down. Good evening. Welcome. State your name for the record. Can you just push the button to turn the green light on?
Name is John Downing. I'm from Hyannis.
All right.
Building looks beautiful. I like it. My concern on this is only the fact that it does not look like there's enough room to get the car off the street before it enters the garage. I don't know what that distance is right there, but based on the drawings, that's what I'm looking at. Is there a way to push that garage door back into the building a little bit so you can get the car off the street? This way it does not stop traffic as they're coming in and waiting for that garage door. And that's all I have to comment on.
Understood. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Any other members of the public like to speak to this? Please come on down. Good evening. Welcome. State your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is John Richmond. I'm just a longtime Hyannis resident, and let me sign in first.
Okay. Take your time.
And really, what I have, if it's okay with you guys, is a question, and forgive me for my ignorance. I think you said that there are going to be 40 units and 25 parking spaces. Is that right? Did I get that right?
No, I think it's 22 units.
22 units and 25 spaces. And I would ask, considering the future, has there been any consideration on the part of the town to giving over some of that town parking lot to this building if it is needed? Or parking permits, has anybody thought about that at all? Because there's a decent chance that it's not enough spaces. And I would just also say, yeah, I think it's too big, but that old building has been terrible for so long. I think it's worth whatever we're giving up to get something better. Thank you.
Appreciate those comments. Thank you, sir. Okay, any additional comments? Come on down. Okay, seeing none, I move to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Michael. All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Public hearing is closed. Give the applicant an opportunity to respond to any public comment if they'd like. If not, we'll move on. Certainly not an obligation, just like to make that offer.
Just briefly, regarding the landscaping, I tried to quickly review section 240-24.1.5. That's not just one specific subsection. There are many. I was not able to identify the section which would make a landscaping requirement for this project. In fact, I think the opposite is true because the sidewalks surrounding the building will be public amenities accessible by the public for which no landscaping would be required. Candidly, it's my opinion that asset management is not desirous of having any landscaping along the southerly crosswalk area that's being proposed due to maintenance obligations and responsibilities that a clean sidewalk providing safe access for the relocated handicap spots and pedestrians would be more favorable. Regarding the entry regarding ingress and egress, that is something that would have been addressed through formal site plan review. In formal site plan review, as I mentioned, we have approval received last Thursday. All conditions of those approvals will be imported into any favorable decision provided by this board. So I submit this board should feel confident about any public safety concerns regarding vehicular ingress or egress to the site. Finally, there are 22 units, 25 spaces are being provided, which meets the 1 space per dwelling unit in the downtown Main Street zoning district. Since the commercial space is a retail use, restaurant use, there is no parking required, with the intent being we're promoting a walkable downtown Main Street, serving mixed use. I think this is a grand slam for Hyannis, and I submit that I request that you issue the special permit for the curb cut, which is the reason we're here for you this evening.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. Mr. Schwab, the public hearing is closed. Please have a seat. Mr. Schwab, the public hearing is closed. Please have a seat. I'm not going to say it again. Thank you.
Complete the citation.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I need to follow the rules. It's my job as chair. Okay. I do concur, and I think that we should look for a motion on this item. And just a reminder, our staff report has draft findings and draft conditions. The motion should read the draft findings and reference the draft conditions.
Just 1 second, Mr. Chair. I'm going to get the motion ready. I would make a motion to approve with conditions special permit SP 2025-004, 337 and 345 Main Street with the following findings and conditions. Finding number 1, the property location is 337 and 345 Main Street, Hyannis. It is shown on Assessor's Map 327, parcels 111 and 112 in the downtown Main Street zoning district. Number 2, the applicant, Bornbaum Associates LLC, seeks to construct a new curb cut on Ocean Street. Number 3, the planning board finds that the issuance of the special permit is consistent with the design and infrastructure plan and that the development meets the following criteria. A, provide housing that supports a mix of income levels and provides both ownership and rental housing. B, support locally owned businesses and business that employ Cape Cod residents. Number 4, the application falls within a category specifically exempted in the ordinance for a grant of a special permit. Section 240-24.1.5.d.7 subsection C allows the planning board to grant permission to construct a new curb cut via a special permit. Number 5, after an evaluation of all the evidence presented, the proposal fulfills the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance and would not represent a substantial detriment to the public good or the neighborhood affected. Number 6, an application for this project has been reviewed by informal site plan review and formal site plan review. Number 7, the necessity for a new curb cut is shown to be adequate given special circumstances, including A, that the project will provide housing that supports a mix of income levels. Number 8, The proposed repairs, alterations, and/or expansion are not substantially more detrimental to the surrounding neighborhood. And I would reference conditions number 1 through 8, draft conditions number 1 through 8 in the staff report dated September 8th, 2025.
Excellent. Nicely done, Tim. I appreciate that. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Matt. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. The motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Okay, moving along in our agenda, we are going to move on to our zoning amendments. Again, as stated prior, we are going to read the 4, we're going to start with the 4 downtown Hyannis zoning amendments, read all of those into the record, and then move to open the public hearing for each one. Okay, so
Can I
we
just
will, yes.
Ask for a point of order. Do we do one motion to open all of them public hearing? Or
No,
do they
we're-
individual motions? How do we?
We're going to go with individual motions.
Okay.
Yeah, just to kind of cover all our bases. Once we're done opening those, we're going to shift to Jim, who's getting a presentation ready. Let's see.
My second question on that is just,
Yeah.
once we open the public hearing, there's no time limit,
No,
right?
great question. So our only time limitation here is we have 21 days to refer this to town council after the closing of the public hearing. So we will leave the public hearing open for as long as we deem necessary, and once we close it, we have 21 days to refer it to town council. Karen, did I get that right? Excellent. Okay, so let's share the wealth here. And Michael, would you like to open our first one here? That's the first one listed under zoning amendments, TC item number 2026-003.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So a proposal to amend the code of the Town of Barnstable, Part 1, General Ordinance, Chapter 240 zoning, Article 3, District Regulation, Section 240-24.1.5 standard for all district to modify the requirement parking for residential or artist live, work, and establishment parking space dimension standard.
Perfect. And again, this is an item that requires a public hearing. I move to open the public hearing for this item. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. The public hearing is open. Our next one I'll take, it's Town Council item number 2026-005. This is a proposal to amend the Code of the Town of Barnstable, Part 1, General Ordinances, Chapter 240 Zoning, Article 3, District Regulations to modify building height requirements in the downtown Main Street District and downtown Village District areas. And again, this requires a public hearing. I move to open the public hearing for this item. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. The public hearing on this item is open. Our next one is Town Council item number 2026-006. Mary, would you read this one?
Sure. It's Town Council item number 2026-006. It's a proposal to amend the Code of the Town of Barnstable, Part 1, General Ordinance, Chapter 240, zoning to repeal the downtown village district and amend the zoning map to replace the downtown village district with downtown neighborhood zoning district. This is a
Excellent, thank you. And again, this one requires a public hearing. I'll move to open the public hearing for this item. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Public hearing is open. And our last of those 4 is Town Council item number 2026-007, the James Bond one. Ray, would you take this one?
All right. TC item number 2026-007. Proposal to amend the Code of the Town of Barnstable, Part 1, General Ordinances, Chapter 240, zoning to amend the area in the downtown Main Street District where ground floor commercial space is required.
Excellent, thank you, Ray. And again, this requires a public hearing. I move to open the public hearing for this item. Do we have a second?
Second.
Was that Michael or Ray?
Ray.
Ray, thank you, Ray. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. The public hearing is open on all 4 items. So Jim is going to talk about the fact that these 4 items are all related to downtown zoning. Mr. Schulte had some great comments earlier outlining how this process went, and because these items are related, that's why we're reading all of them into the record and opening all the public hearings together, allowing Jim to make a presentation on all of them. Now, it is 9:15, so the way I kind of see this going tonight is we listen to Jim's presentation. Anybody here who wants to speak on these items, I do want to give them the time and space to do that. But I don't know if it's reasonable to expect that any of these will be voted on this evening. Just because of the time of night and because of the time that we want to give to these. We don't want anything to be rushed. So it is likely that these will be continued to our October meeting, but obviously we'll get input from the board on that. Jim, take it away.
All right, good evening. Jim Kupfer, Director of Planning and Development, here to discuss the proposed zoning amendments before you for the downtown Hyannis zoning district. So just wanted to take a step back and understand, why the planning board is reviewing these zoning amendments. What are zoning amendments? How are zoning amendments made? The process that us as a community went through to get to here tonight, and where we'll go beyond this evening. So zoning, the simplest term for zoning is the purpose of zoning is to regulate land use to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community of the town of Barnstable. Zoning has been in place since the 20s. It's grown, as you can imagine, over the decades. I believe the first iteration was 8 pages, maybe not even back and front. And now we're over 270 pages, I believe, of zoning. So it has evolved over time, but zoning is meant to evolve to tackle weighty issues, as you guys have heard earlier today. Mass General Law 40A Section 5 is how a zoning amendment comes to be. And Mass General Law 40A Section 5 describes who and how a zoning amendment moves through the process. Who this evening is the Town Council. The Town Council has reviewed the zoning amendments and has recommended these move to the Planning Board for your review. The Planning Board, as the chair mentioned earlier, is advisory. An advisory report comes from the Planning Board within 21 days after the board's hearing is closed. So it's important to not close a hearing until you've exhausted your review. Understand if you want to take anything else in, you should do so before closing that hearing. Now, the recommendation is a simple majority of the planning board, but I believe, as the chair mentioned earlier, an approval of a zoning amendment by the town council requires a supermajority, so 2/3 vote. The planning board is authorized locally here through the town charter 241-29 authorities and responsibilities. The planning board makes recommendations to town council with regard to changes in zoning ordinance of the town. Can't get much broader than that. So you're here before you this evening with 4 downtown Hyannis zoning district suggested amendments. We'll go through each one of them. But again, just before we get to where we are today, we understand where zoning has come from, where amendments come from. Originally, an amendment was moved forward, over 25 years ago to establish what was then called the Hyannis Village Business District, and that was within the growth incentive zone. The growth incentive zone, as it sounds, incentivizing growth in a certain zone, was meant to streamline zoning, though the existing zoning at the time wasn't really producing the redevelopment that I think the community was hoping for. As a result, limited new residential units were built, and as a result, you're talking about the very same blighted properties this evening. Now, the community looked at the growth incentive zone, looked at the existing zoning, and over the course of several years began to discuss how to evolve the zoning into essentially what you see this evening, what is on the books tonight. At April 11th, 2022, the planning board unanimously recommended downtown Hyannis zoning district. So you all, as a planning board, many of you were on that board, reviewed that, discussed that, and recommended, just as you're being asked to recommend this evening. And then Town Council later firmly voted to approve the Downtown Hyannis zoning district. To 2022-144 is the Town Council item. Welcome to go back and take a peek at that. So it created this Downtown Hyannis zoning district and the different districts that are there before you tonight. We have the Downtown Main Street zoning district, which is predominantly Main Street and Barnstable Road with some other offshoots, and that's that dark spine that you see through there. Downtown Village is the purple district, really talking about the surrounding area around downtown Main Street. So North Street over to the HYCC, essentially, the east end of Main Street and the neighborhoods around there. The downtown neighborhood is kind of the pocket neighborhoods that we have in our downtown. School Street, Kingsway, I believe it is, off of South Street. We also then, and those three, I should note, is what we think of when we say form-based zoning. So it really has the descriptive zoning that talks about limited setbacks, playing with the streetscape, and enhancing design character. And then you get into more of your standard zoning with the downtown hospital, Hyannis Harbor, transportation center, and the highway commercial. The downtown zoning did add a number of features to our zoning that we didn't have prior. These tables that add in lot width, talk about lot coverage, talk about fenestration, so windows and doors percentages. This board has reviewed a couple of special permits for that. It also talks about other features of design that we simply didn't have prior. Now, with that being said, as the zoning was implemented and development proceeded, or applications proceeded for the new zoning, there was some concerns raised about different aspects of the zoning, and the subcommittee to review and assess zoning was established through the subcommittee, or through the town council. The town council established a few different ad hoc committees. This one I helped staff along and I attempted to assist our chair, Mr. Bob Schulte, in developing out recommendations through that process. Ultimately, what you see there is the cover of the ultimate report that was provided to the town council. The report that provided recommendations, not only for the four that you see tonight, but several others that tried to dive into the concerns that may have been raised and how to best address those. Now, I will note too that the ad hoc subcommittee was specifically recommended, the items that are before you for the downtown Hyannis. I do want to note that it is separate and distinct from the next two items that we won't be diving into tonight. We'll dive into what sounds like in November. That is the work of the enforcement group that through the town manager's office at the request of town council. There's two separate kind of concurrent processes going on here. And this one specifically was through the ad hoc for these four downtown Hyannis ones. So what is before you tonight? I'll go quickly through those four. So the first one is parking requirements. As you heard previously, previous speakers concerned about limited parking for new development. So as of right now, today, if you are to build a residential structure in downtown Hyannis, each unit is required to have one parking space. That doesn't mean they can't offer more, but it does require just one parking space. And as you saw from the previous project, they may provide more, but it's certainly not two per unit. That's not what we're seeing, at least in the projects that are being proposed. And that was a concern for some residents and others. And the town council has requested us to take a closer look at that. Went through the subcommittee. The subcommittee, I will note, the subcommittee recommended a range, 1.5 to 2. You do have to put a specific number in there when making a suggested zoning change. So that is my liberty that I guess I took, so I just want to clarify that. I did state in there when drafting the hearing and notice to the council and to you as the planning board that it is, that the suggestion is, or the amendment is 1.5, but the report is 1.5 to 2. Now, there's other aspects, not just one unit per, one space per unit. There's also a couple other items that are recommended, and these recommendations, I will say, came specifically from staff to the subcommittee. As was mentioned earlier, certainly there's lessons learned in the zoning as it's progressed, one of which is to make strict requirements within your parking standards. And so the suggestion here is to insert some additional strict standards for parking dimensions, drive aisle, and that the handicap parking spaces are not a party to the formula, so you need to provide the 1.5 to 2 parking spaces per unit, as well as spaces for ADA compliance. So, Mr. Chairman, you want me to continue through all 4 first and then go back for any questions?
Yeah, I would just say, yes, please, and I would just say, any board members have any questions for Jim, just stop them.
Yep.
We got one.
Yeah, just, sorry, just.
I saw some eyes.
Just on clarification, the recommendation is 1.5 parking spaces per unit? Is that what the recommendation is?
Right, so what's before you tonight is 1.5 per unit, but I do want to clarify that the report from the ad hoc subcommittee did provide a range, and that range was 1.5 to 2.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you, thanks for that.
But the amendment as drafted states 1.5, is that right?
That's correct. So moving on to the second one, building height in the DMS and DV. Right now in DMS, in the downtown Main Street in the DV, so in the areas that are shaded in that map, the dark red and the purple, the area is, and that's not entirely accurate, actually South Street is DN. But so the purple and the red, you can build up to 4 stories at this time. The request through the ad hoc subcommittee, a really good discussion about what that height limitation should be. Again, a little bit of a range playing off of the existing zoning right now. You can do a 4th story, but it has to be stepped back 8 feet. The suggestion here was 3 to 3.5 maximum, and the 3.5 maximum is, again, if could be stepped back, but if you're activating that rooftop space, and that's certainly something we could have more discussion on. Now, the downtown village with downtown neighborhood. So this is amending both the map and the ordinance itself. And you'll see, again, on the left side, you'll see the purple shade. And this would be eliminating that purple shade and replacing it with the yellow shade. And what that means in the purple shade, again, you can, as we just talked about, go up to 4 stories. And here's the better kind of laying out of what really matters. Here is, geographically speaking, we're talking about the purple shaded areas. So those neighborhoods we would be converting to DN. So let's talk about what moving DV to DN would look like. The DV, again, the purple side, is what is that surrounding community right now. You can go up to 4 stories with that setback. It has an 80% maximum lot coverage, and it has setbacks that are somewhat limited, primary, secondary, side, rear, 0 is minimum, 15 maximum, and then it has some other features for fenestration. The DN, now we're only going up to 3 stories, and again, that has that caveat there, or the footnote, which appears to have been cut off, as well as
within the DN, we have lot coverage of maximum of 50%. So lot coverage meaning impervious area, and DV, you can 80% of it can be impervious, whereas in the DN only half of the property. Additional setbacks, so we're talking 10 minimum, 20 maximum, so that's more going back to kind of traditional zoning where you're kind of pushing it back off the street a little bit. And obviously, as I mentioned, the heights are less. I also note, and I added in that little paragraph over to the side there in the use provisions, we're no longer talking about the limitations of density per parking space. Now in the DN, you can go up to 4 units per structure. And you can also have an ADU right now. Obviously, with the recent state law, you can also have an ADU by right. And then there's also some other uses that are allowed: office, healthcare, clinics, et cetera. But the multifamily is kind of the biggest difference, where DV 4 stories and as many units as the parking will allow. DN up to four units within a structure. Excuse me, with some additional lot standards that would reduce the density.
Just to jump back for one question, Jim. So the use table, I see this, the use provision here. Is there anything, so is this written like prohibiting anything besides office, healthcare use, and that sort of for the commercial use in the DN district?
That's correct. Yep. Yeah. So it's limited uses allowed in the DN district.
Okay. So that would mean everything in the DN district, no restaurants, no other commercials besides that, limited use.
That's correct.
Okay.
Jim, just one other, could you define lot coverage?
Yep. So in the actual zoning, we have a definition for lot coverage. I don't have it in front of me, but it is typically the impervious surface that is on that lot or on that parcel of land. And so things like the structures themselves are impervious. Obviously, the rainwater is hitting off the roof. Driveways are typically included unless you're doing impervious pavers or we are in Barnstable, so there could be shell driveways or something like that would not trigger the coverage. But so structures are your primary impervious, but other paved surfaces may be included as well.
But so does it include parking lots?
Correct. If they were paved, yes. It's all the lot coverage. The infiltration of rainwater is really where your head should go. It's how are we going to treat the runoffs that's there, and how do we allow for greater green space, essentially. The fourth one is ground floor commercial space. So this is essentially expanding that ground floor commercial space. And that would be a requirement. So this dates back to, again, when I first mentioned we had the Hyannis Village Business District. So it predates our zoning that was updated. It talked about ground floor limitations, the requirement of that commercial between C Street to Barnstable Road, Ocean Street. That was carried forward in the updated zoning. So the existing is that stretch of Main Street from C Street to Ocean Street that there's required first floor commercial, and this expands that to bring it down to Pleasant Street. So keeping with the traditional pattern that's there. That's it.
Okay. Matt?
2 questions. If you just go back to that last slide, so now it's mandatory?
Mandatory.
Okay.
That's what's
Part 2,
proposed.
can you talk about repetitive petition and how it applies to these?
Repetitive petition, how it applies, yes.
So we to recommend, so should the planning board not recommend a zoning amendment? I think it's important. I wish we had said it when the people were here, but I just want people to understand how this works.
Yep.
So what happens if we say no and the town council says no?
Right, so you couldn't bring back the same petition for 2 years. Obviously there's different nuances there. If the planning board says no and the town council withdraws, there's different, you could relook at it. But yes, if the planning board says we do not recommend this, and then the town council shoots it down, this matter cannot be brought back for 2 years.
Thank you.
Steve? Go ahead.
Jim, just if you go back to that visual, so the net increase for this particular one is, what, about 2 blocks, is that right?
Yes, as proposed, Ocean Street to Center Street, and then Center Street to Pleasant Street. That would be the 2 blocks considered here.
Okay, thanks.
Jim, just one question. Commercial on the first floor, in a certain instance, could be waived via special permit?
Not as drafted, no. This would require commercial space on the first floor as drafted. I mean, you could seek a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, but as drafted, there's not a special permit provision. Certainly something that
Could our recommendation include that requirement could be waived via special permit at the planning board?
you could certainly add a provision that to, to apply for anything other than commercial would require a special permit. You could certainly make that recommendation.
Okay. And with it being in the growth incentive zone, that would be under the planning board's purview?
That's correct.
Understood. Okay. Any other questions, comments for Jim? Mary?
Same for that. Same slide.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to get my head around this. So it's all of Main Street, right? All of Ocean Street down to C Street. Is that correct?
Well, so right now, so if you're on Main Street, so if you're at Soho,
Yeah.
and you're walking to, what's it called now, the Coastal Cove on C Street?
Yeah.
So if you make that stretch right now, all on Main Street, you're required to have first floor commercial.
Okay.
What this is suggesting is, now if you turn yourself around, you're on Soho and you're going to go towards Bradford Hardware,
Yeah.
that stretch is also going to require first floor commercial.
Okay. Okay.
So basically it would end at Bradford's and 200 Main-ish?
Yeah, well, it's
building
proposed to end at Bradford's, right before Bradford's.
Oh, I see now. Oh, yes, okay.
We're really dating ourselves with Bradford's.
It's still there.
It's still there and thriving.
All right, anything else for Jim while we have him? Tim?
So for that, and is that commercial, is that for frontage just on Main Street? Or is it all frontages, for instance, on the side of Ocean Street or up, one of the side, or up Barnstable Road?
I read it as just Main.
Yeah, let me pull up the exact language, but I believe that is correct. I believe it is just, yes, for any lot fronting Main Street.
Good question, Tim.
For the frontage just on Main Street, yeah.
Even if it's a corner building.
Yeah, if it's a corner building,
Yeah, that's
I
a
mean,
good
that curb cut
The one we
thing,
just saw, right?
yeah, that has frontage on Main Street and then the, running down the side, so.
Yeah, it's got frontage on both, some of those longer buildings. Okay. Anything else? Let's go to public comment. So again, we're going to handle public comments one at a time, right? So we just turn back to our agenda items here. So we're going to take them in order. So right now, we are accepting public comment for Town Council item number 2026-003, which refers to the parking standards. All right, so we'll start there and we'll work our way through. Mr. Schulte, thank you.
Great, thank you. Bob Schulte again. Just before I make the comments on parking, a couple things. One, I wanted to say Jim is being way too modest when he said he more than attempted to assist our committee. He was a tremendous asset and part of that committee. I just want to thank him for that as well. Two, contrary to what was indicated earlier, and I think Jim would testify to this, I think over the 9 months that we conducted those meetings, they were well attended. We had dozens of people at the meetings. We didn't, unfortunately, have a boat issue on our agenda, so we didn't get the turnout you guys did tonight. And I wanted to thank Jim for clarifying that, contrary to what I think Councilor Levesque, whether it was accidentally or intentional, conflated the last two issues had nothing to do with the ad hoc zoning committee. We did not make any recommendations to the town. We were not part of that. He seemed to blur the lines, making it sound like we had something to do with those recommendations. I wish I was able to say that when the folks in the boats were here, but I wanted to make sure that the planning board members understand that we did not have any involvement with that. That was not part of our purview. And with that, I'll talk about the parking. So just some additional insights that I think might be helpful for your discussions and deliberations. The committee had we heard significant concerns about parking from residents and business owners. The message was loud and clear: one space per unit was inadequate. The reality is we still live in a very car-centric region with no mass transit and very limited bus service. I looked this up earlier. According to the 2023 statistics, the most recently available, 84% of Barnstable residents who commute to work do so by car. 76% commute alone, and another 8% carpool. The same source says that average number of cars owned per household in Barnstable is 2. It is clear that we do not have sufficient parking with one. Even my discussions with Jim in the planning and development, I think the sense was 1 was too little. In the downtown Hyannis area alone, you already have a significant need for parking for commercial, retail business, tourists, ferry parking, as well as residential. Adding additional residential units without including adequate parking will only make the parking issue worse. The Hyannis parking study that we received as part of our review was dated in 2017, which means it was done with 2016 data. That was pre-COVID, when working and driving patterns changed, and is now almost 10 years out of date. The parking study said that we have about 13,000 parking spaces available in downtown Hyannis. 13,000. I had a very hard time believing that. Jim was very good and took a group of us on a walkthrough to see where that parking is. I know Jim right now has his team working on updating that, and hopefully we'll get a better sense for what that parking looks like. But based on some preliminary information that I've seen, about 45% of that 13,000 figure, or 5,800 spaces, are located at the extreme edges of downtown Hyannis and the harbor front. There's a lot out by the Irish Village, you have a ton over by the hospital, and you have down the harbor front, which are owned by the Atlas family and used for the parking for the ferries. Of the remaining 55%, about 90% of those are privately owned. That means if a resident living on Main Street or near Main Street area has a second car, they will most likely need to identify a private landowner with whom they will have to negotiate the purchase or rental of a parking space. The North Street parking lot, just as an example, behind Puritan and running along North Street, has at least 13 different owners. You go and try and figure out who owns what space in that lot and who do you talk to. Good luck finding a parking space and negotiating with that. Finally, I'd like to ask you to take a look at the recent Wilkins 1 and 2 developments. These are developments that have been developed by a highly experienced developer with projects of all sizes. They know what residents need for parking. Wilkins 1 has, I believe, 1.5, correct me if I'm off on the percentages, Jim, but 1.5 spaces per unit, and Wilkins 2 is now proposing, I believe, 1.7 per unit. So you tell me, is 1 space per unit enough? I think it's something that that we need to recommend to the town council, that we need to increase that. As Jim said, the committee recommended 1.5 and no more than 2 spaces per unit. This is all subject to negotiation. Jim and I agreed to disagree on some of those things. I think a 1.5 space per unit, when you take into consideration visitors, ADA parking spaces, et cetera, you need more than 1 per unit. Thank you.
Okay, great comments. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You want me to stay up here because I'm probably going to be...
Any additional comments? Come on down. Mr. Schwab, welcome.
I'll be quick because I know it's late. First of all, I apologize for speaking out of turn.
No worries. All good.
I did that on purpose because I wanted to make the point that you're not listening. We had a room full of people here talking about too much development. You had the opportunity to stop a curb cut, and you didn't take it. Now that project's going to have to go through appeal, okay? Because you didn't listen to the public and address the public's concerns. This is the issue with parking. I went to most of those meetings. Bob is probably a little tired of me. Jim is probably even more tired of me. But the general consensus was 1.7 and up. So I don't know how we got to 1.5, but people want 2 parking spaces per unit. It used to be more than that per bedroom. Okay, so, I mean, there was a change made that is going to ruin downtown Hyannis. This is a very small, very incremental ask to go up to 1.5 and 1.7. That number represents a compromise, and we need you to respect that compromise. That's all we're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the comments. Anybody else for public comment on parking? Councilor Lutke, thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, parking. I think the comment made by Bob Schulte hits it. If we left it to the developers, they would surely build the amount of parking they need to make a profit. They would know that. I think one is absolutely too low. If we listened really to the folks out here earlier this evening who talked about all their vehicles, their home occupations, recreation, boats, none of the people living on Main Street can be Cape Codders, based on what I heard here. They're going to have to be something else. I don't know what they are, but they're being disallowed from enjoying a lot of the recreational aspects of this beautiful place. I find it a real quandary who we're building for. I don't know who they all are. I don't know who all these white-collar workers are. I don't know where they're getting the money to afford these apartments. I guess that's a separate issue. But and we heard the commuting statistics, which are accurate. The 84% commute by vehicle. I couldn't get by without a vehicle around here. As soon as you have a child and they get older, they're going to want a vehicle. And I spoke to one developer who's developing down by the waterfront, and he said, it's fine, because the people are going to be so wealthy, they're just going to buy a commercial space. Well, I don't know that our workforce, which is ostensibly who we're building for, is going to be able to afford that. So I think, like we've said, I have heard the word compromise. Probably 2 spaces is better, 1.7 a little bit better. Wilkins is a good example of that. I know we're downtown, and everyone has this theory of density, and everybody's walking everywhere, but we don't have a supermarket. That's kind of a problem. We do have the RTA, but, you know, it's not like a city bus company where a bus is coming every 10 minutes. You really have to devote your day to that. So this is really important. And you don't want to do overkill. I mean, you go look at the mall, way big overkill on parking there. But of course, now we have that beautiful race car place there that's set up, and then we have the place for the fair to come and the circus and stuff, so that serves a purpose. But let's think about it, and I thought Cliff Carroll made a beautiful comment earlier about just the overarching, but this parking may seem small, but it's enormous on how we're going to move forward as a town. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate the comments. Anybody else for public comment on the parking? Welcome, thank you. State your name for the record.
John Richmond, do you need me to sign in again? I'm not sure
No.
how this works, okay?
No, you're fine.
I'm in favor of 2 parking spaces per unit. I think that that's basic logic. And I think that you should look to what is going to happen with these apartments in the future. It's very questionable as to whether they're going to be filled up at market rate. I don't see that many jobs here that can afford $2,500 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. At least it's going to be 2 people there. So as it progresses, typically what happens is it doesn't work. The builder sells it. It deteriorates. It goes down. Finally, it becomes classified as affordable housing. But I will tell you, if you want to see what private affordable housing looks like, visit Hyannis House. Just walk into a corridor and walk back out. Most of the air conditioning doesn't work. The residents are afraid to ask for maintenance. That's what we're headed for. You'll hear more later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else on our parking zoning amendment for public comment? So we will move along to our second item for public comment, and that will be Town Council item number 2026-005, which is related to modifying building height requirements in the downtown Main Street District and the downtown Village District. So anyone with public comment on this item? Mr. Schulte, lead us off.
All righty, thank you, Bob Schulte. On this item, the zoning passed in 2023 allowed up to 4 stories in both the Main Street zoning district and the downtown Village District. The committee received extensive comments regarding 4-story building heights. There were comments about the creation of the canyon effect created down Main Street with the building of 4-story buildings, loss of historic buildings and resources. Residents felt the village feel of historic Hyannis is what brings tourists to the village and are extremely concerned with the building of excessive 4-story apartment buildings up and down Main Street and throughout the neighboring village streets will make Hyannis look just like off-Cape suburban downtowns. We heard suggestions ranging from a 5-year building moratorium to doing nothing. But instead, we focused on a more practical solution, which we felt was somewhere between the extremes. After much debate, and I think Jim described that in his presentation, we recommended reducing the building heights allowed from 4 stories to 3 stories, however, allowing a half story going to 3.5 if that half story was recessed from the facade of the 3rd story by 8 feet, which is what's done right now with the 4th story. I'd like to point out here that during the discussion about building heights, at planning and development events held by the council pre-February 2nd, 23, there was constant commentary by proponents of 4-story building heights that builders and developers needed in order to make money, because if they can't make money, they won't build in Hyannis. Well, I took a look at the latest multifamily residential development report posted by Planning and Development on its website. Its date is August 25, so just this last month. According to the report, for the time period between 2/23, when the downtown Hyannis zoning was passed, until August of this year, within the downtown Hyannis zoning district, we have the following projects. We have 6 projects in permitting. We have 6 projects that have been permitted. We have 12 under construction, and we have 5 that have final construction where certificate of occupancies have been issued. That's 29 projects since February of 23. Jim confirmed to me that of those 29 projects, only 4 have sought 4-story permits. 4. That's 13% of the projects that have been proposed since February 2023. The hard data shows developers do not need 4-story projects to make money. If that was the case, how do you explain the other 87% of projects underway in Hyannis? So our recommendation is that you bring, the ad hoc committee's recommendation is you bring the heights of the buildings down from 4 to 3 with the option of going to 3.5 if the half story is set back by 8 feet. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Appreciate the comments. All right, Councilor Lutke, thank you.
I'm back again. When this zoning originally came to the town council, I offered an amendment. And the amendment was to do just what Bob Schulte's talking about, was to bring down the height on School Street. And I would hope, since you are continuing, I think this is wise, Chairman Robershut, that you guys walk around a little bit and look around. And the reason I did this was for School Street is because I saw what happened on Pleasant Street. Now, Captain's Row has been pointed out as a beautiful development. A lot of people laud it. But go one street over to School Street, and you'll see the last remaining street that has the cadence, that has the spacing, that has the dignity of the old sea captains. That's it. It's the only one left. And that's why I offered the amendment, and everybody on the council voted for it unanimously. There's something to say for that. The only problem in School Street is where the Steamship Authority bought a house, tore it down, and put a giant entrance, big old curb cut into their giant parking lot between School Street and the street that faces the hospital. And that's unfortunate. But I'd hate to see School Street changed at all. There's something to be said for character and for having a little bit of a village left in Hyannis for those of us who live here and call it home. And I think it's important. I remember Elizabeth Jenkins had carved out some, and she and I talked about this. There's some very nice neighborhoods. Again, get out of your cars, walk around, or drive through some of these neighborhoods. They're really quite nice. They really are. These are the starter homes. These are the homes that the folks who were here earlier, that's where they live and that's where they thrive. And we can all work together on this. Absolutely, we need to bring this down. I've often said we're standing in the best four-story building in Hyannis. It's this one right here. It really does give a sense of place. You know, it started out as a school and was a school for a lot of different iterations, the Mass Maritime, Cape Cod Community College, and now here it is, our town hall, and I think it's rightfully so, and it sits on a beautiful space out here. Why not let this be the commanding presence, and everybody else, and I'm talking everybody, every other building, could be subservient in a way. We could have a little bit of scale, a little bit of pride that we do have a village here. We kind of have a New England town here where we have a common, you know, this beautiful space out here that we host so many events. Let's have some respect for Hyannis and not turn it into everywhere else. And I've said this before. I've given up on Route 132. Heck with it. Even, you know, Center Street and out there, heck with it. I quit. Okay? Make that everywhere. You know, the CVS looks like every other CVS anywhere in the country. Okay, but down here, downtown, gosh, we have some good stuff left. And I mentioned earlier, I love the renovation of the theater. They kept the integrity of that. You know, you could do a lot here. We've gone through this. It's time for a refresh, and I really look forward. I loved what happened here earlier. I absolutely love listening to those folks, and I think you guys did too. That's the heart of our community, and you know, I look forward to your discussions and your wisdom on this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, additional comments on building height? Mr. Schwab?
I'll be quick. What we've learned from the construction on East Main Street is that not only is 4 stories horrendous, but the setbacks are wrong. That building, the old Cascade, that setback, I mean, if you tripped on your front stairs, your head would land on Main Street. I mean, that's how small a setback you have. So as you consider heights, I would ask as a courtesy to the public that you also consider setbacks. And is there something that you could do there? Thank you.
Great, appreciate that. Thank you. Any additional comments on Town Council item 2026-005 regarding building height? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to our third item. Our third public hearing. This one is Town Council item number 2026-006, which is amending the zoning map to replace the Downtown Village District, DV, with Downtown Neighborhood District, DN. Any public comment on this? Mr. Schulte, lead us off. Thank you.
All right, thank you. On this item, the committee heard extensive concerns from the public and business owners as well about complaints about the 4-story building heights, increased density, and reduced setbacks that were allowed in the Downtown Village District. These are the areas that have been the long-time residential neighborhoods in Hyannis, north and east of the Main Street area. Betty just mentioned some of the beautiful areas and homes that are still there. In her discussions with the Planning and Development Department, I think I can safely say there was an agreement by everyone that the village district zoning didn't allow any transition in building heights, density from the Main Street Commercial District. Instead of having the 4-story or 3.5 on Main Street, you continue that on past North Street into the neighborhoods of Hyannis. This is
Bob, I'm going to pause you for 1 second. Jim, do you mind going to the slide that shows the side-by-side? I'm a visual person,
No, I was just
Bob.
going to say the same
Yeah,
thing.
Sure.
just to look at it while you speak would be
That's
great.
good.
So,
Thank
sorry to
you.
interrupt.
No, so what we were proposing is what you see on the left-hand side there, that's the existing zoning, which is now the Downtown Village District. So right now, under the current zoning, in the dark red and the light purple, under the current zoning, you can go 4-story building all the way out to that edge. There was no attempt in the zoning that was passed in February of 2023 to have any kind of a transition or step down. People can build 4 stories right out to the edge, which is why you hear so much feedback and concerns with people about that 7-Eleven that's now going to be a 4-story building with very limited parking. We had calls and people who came to our meetings who called us and said, I live in a single-family residential, and I got a 3-story, a 4-story good up next to me. I'm standing in my outdoor shower, and they can look right down on me. These are the residential neighborhoods, and under the current zoning, you have no transition to a lower zoning. So our proposal was to reduce or to eliminate that downtown village and return to the downtown neighborhood, which is what you see on the right, which is the yellow. So within that, under that zoning, let's see, we had comments from residents saying that now the 4-story zoning buildings going next door look over their backyards into their outdoor showers. So following significant discussion, the committee recommended the repeal of the downtown village district, which is that light purple, and returning it to the downtown neighborhood zoning district, which is a 3-story. So you have 4 or 3 now, 3.5 under our recommendation, and you would go to 3 in the next area, which is that light purple, soon to be, hopefully soon to be yellow. So you have a graduating reduction in heights, and you maintain what have been historically the residential neighborhoods of that northern part of downtown Hyannis.
I have to just say, I think you'll be able to see into the guy's shower, whether it's from the 3rd floor or the 4th floor.
Yeah, well, yeah, either,
Okay.
well, you're right, from that 3-story and stuff, but that's what the current zoning is now. It's currently 3-story. So what you have now are the homes there. There's less incentive to try and build a 4-story next door. You've got the single-family residential in that area under the neighborhood village, so, yeah. No, point well taken. Thank you.
No, great comments, Mr. Schulte. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Any additional comments on proposed map change, zoning amendment? Councilor Lutke, thank you.
Yes, I'll comment on this one as well. And I can comment by talking about specific projects. And I think the gradation between the more commercial or the built-up area to the residential, and that's the beauty of probably the Tree Streets is our best example of a kind of a urban neighborhood that's very comfortable. Again, I drive through there a lot. If you haven't been through there, please, again, go through there. It's so nice. And one of the ones that really disappoints me is the destruction of the church. The church that a portion of it came from Katuitt, and it's just there north of the fire station. That's being torn down. But that's a beautiful example of a transition. That's what Mr. Schulte was just talking about, that versus the abruptness of it. It transitioned from a church and down into the neighborhoods. And the other one we're dealing with, we've had an enormous amount of comment, is what's happening on Pleasant Hill Road. That's on the top northwest, where it looks like a little Y coming up there. Because it backs up to some very sensitive environmental areas. So when we drew this, I think there wasn't enough appreciation for what's on the other side of that line and how do you transition. And I'm not saying this is easy. It's incredibly complicated, but you have to think about these things. How do you transition down? How do you make it comfortable that it doesn't become abrupt? And I think what has been proposed here would do a good way to get us to that point. I really like the spine. I like the spine on Main Street. I don't mind it going back a block. I think that's comfortable and that's vibrant. But then let's come back gradually. Let's not go to the edge of a wetland with a 4-story building that requires enormous amounts of intrusive engineering to make it work. Something's a little bit amiss when you're having to do that kind of work to do a 4-story apartment building that maybe should have been put somewhere else. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate your comments.
Chair Robichaud, can I just make one additional comment, just
Sure.
based on Councilor Latke's comments?
Yep.
One of the things, and I did confirm this with Jim, had this zoning, the proposed neighborhood zoning, been in place for that property, the 32 Hill, all the controversy that's going now about building a 4-story building, that builder probably would not have built that building because they wouldn't have been able to build 4 stories. So if that was in place now, that issue is likely to have gone away. So
This is 32 Pleasant Hill.
Is it 32 Pleasant Hills? Yeah, 32.
And nothing's built there yet, though?
Nothing's built there yet,
Right,
and
just
as far as I
proposed.
know, there's no permits
Yeah, okay.
in place either. So.
Okay, appreciate that. All right, additional comments? Mr. Schwab, thank you.
Thank you again. I'll be quick again. This is the most important of the four because it creates the opportunity to transition and it softens the blow of everything else. And everyone mentioned 32 Pleasant Hill. I've been very active there. That's a disaster. I mean, you're talking about putting a 4-story building on a wetlands 20 feet from a single-family home. 20 feet. It's 10 foot on Mr. Mornstein's side and 10 feet on the Deleuze family home side. You need to walk that property. You need to get up there, talk to Jeff, he'll give you a tour. If you put a 4-story building on that hill, you're going to see that from your boat outside of Hyannis Harbor. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I would ask that you give this some serious consideration and tone down the edges of this form-based zoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Sure. Additional comment?
Yes, sorry. I just attended the One Cape, which is the summit for the Cape Cod Commission. I don't know if any of you guys, were you there?
I didn't go there this year, but I
Okay. Amazing presentations there. And I went to the one on historic preservation, and it was great to see there were developers. They were very young guys, I mean, super young. And one was in Harwich, and I guess one was in Dennis doing the columns. You've probably heard about the columns on 28.
Yeah, great
and
project.
they were fascinating conversations, and these guys really shared their struggle, to make it pencil out and things that they had to do and the help that they got. And the one guy, again, super young guy, so it's really encouraging to see, was working out in Harwich, and he worked with an old schoolhouse, but he worked within the envelope of the schoolhouse. So maybe he didn't do 40 units. I can't remember. Maybe he did 4, maybe he did 6. And now he's excited about getting some land adjacent there to do some other things. And he says Harwich was amazing, the way they worked with him. And I talked about the church earlier. Our current zoning encourages destruction. And we always hear this word blight. Oh, it's blighted. Well, is it blighted? Was that schoolhouse probably blighted in Harwich? Probably so. Was the columns blighted? Absolutely. But it's beautiful if you go by it. These guys took the time and did that. And I wish we had a similar encouragement here in Hyannis, that we'd stop tearing things down. And again, I had mentioned the church. Why couldn't we have put 8 units in the envelope of that church? They could have been pretty cool. Maybe it's not 40, but I don't know. I think these amendments would encourage some of that sensitivity and some of the excitement of keeping some of historic Hyannis. Not all of Hyannis should be on the chopping block for destruction and then new build. There's a lot of blight, but maybe if we changed it a little bit, tweaked it a little bit, people might be encouraged to do some more historic preservation here with what we've got. It's our history. It's not Harwich's. It's not Dennis's. It's ours. So there's things to work with. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Hello. Thank you.
I'm Larry Moran from Katuitt. I have not really immersed myself in the zoning to the extent that Bob and other people have done. But I've followed it peripherally, and I'm looking at 2 or 3 things. First of all, it's more than just a name change. You've got downtown villages being replaced with downtown neighborhood. What would Petula Clark say? So what we're looking at here is looking back at 2023, the early parts of that year, where there was a very aggressive movement to develop commercial property in haste with higher structure, with more money, with more market things than anything else. And that's what really raised it suddenly then, and with the change of the council in the fall of '23, new minds came before the council and new issues were approached, and that's what generated the ad hoc committee to look both forward and backward. And that's not easy to do. And in the 9 months that Bob Schulte ran his committee, they did that. They isolated the issues, but more importantly, they decided what things really needed to be changed. And the changes are basically telling you, support what's being proposed, which brings things back to a more moderable level. We're dealing with trying to get housing here, but we're dealing with preservation of the community as a whole. And I think the comments have been made. I'm not adding much to it, but I'm just looking at the names. Thanks.
Great. No, great comments. Appreciate that. Any additional comments on 2026-006? Welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Surprise.
Richmond, right? Did I
You
get
got
it?
it.
Okay.
So, Rickley, I totally support this. I believe it is a step in the right direction. I think it should be said that the previous town council was concerned about trying to find a way to have private builders build us affordable housing and change zoning in an effort to make that happen. And it was pretty radical. It has resulted, no matter what you do, downtown Hyannis will now become urban. So you've got projects for Barnstable Road. You've got this. From a planning point of view, this was a horrible mistake. Downtown Hyannis does not have the infrastructure. It doesn't have the parking. It doesn't have the roads. It should never have been done this way. And you can't build new roads. Your new parking, your new traffic plan is a very expensive way to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic because you can't make more space, okay? So Hyannis, we say Hyannis, there's really 3 Hyannises. There's the traditional downtown village. There's from the Rotary to Finney's Lane, which I would call Highborough. And from Finney's Lane to 6A, I would call that North Hyannis. Highborough is the logical place for apartment buildings. We need apartments, we need affordable housing, but there you have some room, you have the opportunity for infrastructure, and you have no aesthetic concerns. The only height restrictions are the flight path to the airport. That's where the growth should be taking place. Anyway, thank you to Bob for coming up with this.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those comments. Okay, any additional comments on this one here? Seeing none, we'll move to our next one. This public hearing for 2026-007, which is to amend the area in the downtown Main Street district where ground floor commercial space is required. So again, shifting that requirement from Ocean Street to Pleasant Street. Mr. Schulte, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Final comment, briefest and easiest.
Okay.
Jim pulled that up. That's great. Thank you. As he mentioned before, in the zoning, the form-based zone code zoning, they just carried over what was previously the downtown Main Street, which was from Ocean to C Street. What the recommendation of the committee was essentially a codification of what the existing condition is. If you take a walk from Ocean to Pleasant, where Bradford is, it's basically commercial on both sides. You know, all we're saying is, you know, let's put that in the zoning. That's what exists right now. So, you know, there's no plausible reason for the zoning to say Ocean to C Street. The committee actually initially discussed and recommended starting at the center Old Colony and going down. But after talking to planning development, it was encouraged to say, let's say Pleasant. That's where the commercial starts. Let's bring it from Pleasant to the end of C Street. So that was really, we kind of took the recommendation of planning development and said, you know, it just makes sense to codify what's already existing. So no secret to that one. Thank you.
Great comments. I appreciate that context. Okay, any additional comments on this one? Excellent, thank you. Mr. Schwab, welcome.
My last one, I promise.
All right.
It's widely believed that that piece was carved out of the zoning specifically to accommodate wind development. Wind development is not able to build buildings with commercial spaces. They're just not allowed to do it. And their funding is tied to the fact that it's 100% apartments, no commercial. So what we're trying to do is fix that carve out, because we don't believe that was done properly. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you very much for your comments. Councilor Lucky, thank you.
Yes, Betty Ledke. I'm in support of this one as well. I'm well aware, because I live here and I go to Main Street quite a bit, that there's a lot of empty storefronts, and maybe the concern as well, there's so many empty storefronts where I create more. But I agree, this is a commercial area right now. And I did speak with Wynn quite a bit when they were first coming in, and they did share that they were unable to do commercial with their type of the development. And maybe to the town, maybe to Jim, or maybe to you guys, commercial doesn't have to be a big old store. In fact, I talked to Wynn about this. I said, well, how about if you kind of did something that addressed the public? How about instead of just putting those fake windows in front of your parking garage, how about you put some like storefront windows, and you teamed up with the local schools and you put artwork from the children or something like that. And I don't know how many of you have been through LaGuardia, the new part of LaGuardia Airport? Anyone? No? Okay. In the new part of LaGuardia Airport, they set up this board, and it's an airport, just generic airport. And you can go in there and you design an airplane, and you plug it into the computer, and it takes off, and you see your airplane. It's also, I think, hot air balloons and other things. And I said, how about if you put on your corner, you put on like a generic kind of harbor, and people could design like a pirate boat or a ferry or a sailboat, and something to generate something on the street, because we have so much dead space. I mean, the schools, Sturgis is a great institution, but it's kind of dead space a lot of times of the day. The post office a lot of times of the day, the library, you go down there. Commercial space doesn't have to be that. How many people have been to Paris? There we go. You go. I've never been to Paris, but I've been to Oklahoma. All right, well, there you go. But I'm saying you go along the Seine there, and they have those things that open. And when they're closed, they look like nothing, but when they open, it's a thriving environment. So our paradigm of commercial perhaps could shift on Main Street, and we could get some more vibrancy. It could be pop-up stalls. It could be just window displays. It could be something to interact with. So I'm definitely in favor of this, in favor of maybe the town being more creative on how they deem what a commercial space is. Maybe it doesn't have to be however many square feet. Could just be, the classical, well, nobody reads a newspaper anymore, but, a news shop, a kind of a thing like that just fronts on the street. So let's be creative with this, and again, totally in support of this.
Great. Thank you for that. Mr. Schulte, anything to add?
Just one final comment before you close the public hearing on this. I'm going to go back to my original question to the planning board when I asked how many of you have read thoroughly all the exhibits to the report that we put out. I think there were a couple of hands that didn't go up. I would just ask you again, before you take a vote on any of this, to please go back, even those of you who have read it or some of it, take another look at that. Look at the work and time that went into that, the feedback we got from the public as well, business owners, residents. These were not haphazard. We didn't come in and say we're going to take one extreme or the other. We really tried to go in with surgical precision to identify what are the biggest concerns, what are the issues that the public has, and address those. We really took kind of a centrist position, if you will, which may not make some people on one side happy and the other unhappy too, but we tried to address, tone down some of what was attempted 3 years ago after reflecting to see what people have thought of the zoning and what's occurred in the 3 years since that was passed originally. So I just ask you to please give serious thought to that before you take any serious time or before you take any votes on this. So thank you very much for your time. Yes.
Bob, thank you for your hard work on this, by the way. It was really good to see you guys put in the effort here. A couple of questions. One is, were these the zoning changes we would have seen had the DCPC gone through?
That I don't know. We were not part of the DCP discussion. That was kind of along the lines of the proposal. We had people say, let's do a 5-year moratorium. We didn't go there, Matt.
Right.
So
Okay.
I don't know.
Yep, yeah, it's just the timing of it is ironic, that was there, that came up a couple weeks ago, and then these turn around and happen within the same,
No,
within
these
2
didn't-
weeks.
These didn't turn around. These were out in May. It's taken this long before it's gotten to the planning board. There was no tie to those
Good.
whatsoever, okay?
I wanted, that's what I want to clear the air on that, because I think some people perceive that this was kind of the second half of the
Well,
punch.
if you go back and look at, our report was issued in April of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we had a presentation at the council in May, and then I made remarks, I think, in June. Those discussions came up a couple of months ago, or a couple of weeks ago. We had no involvement in that. That was not any kind of a correlated attempt whatsoever. You can go back and watch all.
Totally
You can go back
appreciate it,
and
Bob.
watch all the videos and of our ad hoc. They're all out there, are minutes, and there
Right.
was no discussion. There's nothing.
I would
So,
rather do it in this format than through
Okay.
the DCPC,
Well,
I guess is where I was going.
trust
So
me.
thank you.
Trust me. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said. Excellent. Thank you, Bob. Any additional public comment on this final item here? Mr. Dewey.
I know it's late. I
Welcome.
had just one comment I wanted to make.
We didn't see you at the boat trailer thing. What was that all about?
I know, you missed out.
It would've been your turn.
Come on, where you been?
I've been away. But one thing just sort of hit me while you guys were just talking about this and looking at that map. One, I think just make sure you look at that map. I couldn't tell exactly where those lines are, but when you cross Pleasant Street, you've got some pretty big parcels that should be considered. And then I think as you look at the waterfront, that taper that was being talked about, how do we connect our waterfront? Do we need to think about bringing this down Ocean Street or further sort of that direction to connect the walkway to the sea? So just, I think, consider that, and consider too a main to maybe expand this further. Do we need to look at it going further towards the West End Rotary too? But also one thing that was just sort of, that triggered it was said at a developers conference I was at, was I think what we're all trying to do is create historically appropriate development patterns that align with our village and our community.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
I'll speak on the other items sort of as a whole. I can do that now or after, but I just want to bring up the affordability component. Yes, we seem to have missed the mark on affordability with the density we have created with this new form-based code, and we can't put that back in the bottle. But I'm a little disappointed, unfortunately, Mr. Presby is no longer with us to bring his housing recommendations forward, but I would love it if that was happening in tandem with this, because as we're taking away density, we should be figuring out affordability. Is there a way to give density for affordability that will create affordability in some of these proposed changes? There's a metric for parking that you do not need as much parking for affordable units as you do for market rate units. And I think that should be considered in the parking calculation, whether we go 1.25, 1.5, 2 or more per unit. So I hope that is considered or is looked into. Unfortunately, we don't have a housing coordinator, but I would recommend that you ask some of our other committees that should have housing specialists and other specialists to give comment to help you guys make those decisions.
Yeah, that metric there you mentioned, if you have information about that you could share in physical form, we'd love to see that included in the materials.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any additional comments on this item? Mr. Schulte, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Dewey. I just want to one final comment on that. It's not before you tonight, but as you read through the memo that the ad hoc committee provided to the council, we were very concerned with that as well, the affordability issue. We actually had joint meetings with the housing committee, Mr. Presby and Laura Schufelt and their group, and we agreed 100%. We brought, one of our recommendations is very detailed on the importance of increasing the affordability. That is one of our great concerns, that we're overbuilding the market rate for a small percentage of affordable units. That was very important to us. So we had recommendations of increasing the inclusionary housing ordinance, creating perhaps a tiered effect as decided based on the size of the project, an increase where there may be 10%, 15, 20%, 25. So that was very important. So the affordability issue was very important to the ad hoc zoning committee as well, and we had recommendations in there. We also talked about the importance of short-term rental regulations and the council considering that, because that's another issue. Even housing advocates have finally begun to sing the song too, which is citizens have been saying for almost 4 years now. Short-term rental takes housing inventory out of our housing stock, which increases pricing. So we think it's very important. One of our recommendations was also for the council to look at and develop reasonable short-term rental regulations, as well as increase the affordable housing opportunities. That's it. Thank you. I'll let you guys go home.
Well, not yet. Thank you very much. Any additional comments on 2026-007? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're in the final stretch here. I do want to take these four, well, let's see. So obviously, we've got to continue the 4 downtown Hyannis zoning ones, but first I want the board to give staff
Give
some
them
homework.
some feedback, some homework.
We should do that before we continue them, obviously, right? Okay.
And my only question is, I mean, so this is being proposed by town council, right? These are zoning amendments that start their life at town council and come to us.
Mm-hmm.
Are there possible tweaks or revisions as this process goes on, or do we have to vote on these in the black and white?
No. Our role is to take what
Black or
they've
white.
given us and we can amend. We can say straight up yes, straight up no, or we can modify and edit it.
We can modify and edit it.
Yes.
Okay.
100%. Yep.
Because I mean, going into the weeds on some of the stuff, like some of the language, for instance, the 3.5 story, there's no definition of a half story in that section of zoning. So like there's
that's
something
something
right
we've gotta
there
get
that
into.
it's not good, like there's some tweaking and some editing that needs to happen. So some of my comments kind of go to that.
Right.
On the homework on the staff and how they can come back to us. Separate from the further discussions we're probably going to want to have in October.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. So at this point, I think that, well, actually, sorry, hold on. First, I got to do this. I'm just going to read quickly the public comment we received via email. So Ryan Cohalan, Eric Schwab, Catherine Ledeck, Ken Alsman, Amy Whiteley, Timothy Kalkis, David E. Sorensen, Chris Kuhn, Irene Ulmer, John Papalardo, Susan Littlefield, Chris Kuhn, again. So just wanted to note that all of those are as in the permanent record, and we all have copies of that. So at this time, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, just a suggestion. I know it's getting late and you guys have taken in a lot of information. Perhaps if you wanted to give the night to think about it and maybe send staff an email on like homework that you wish to see for the next meeting.
Okay.
We can certainly collect that maybe over this week and then start building towards that. And I could meet with the chair about all the different interests that the board wishes to have, and we could build out something for the next meeting.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. And remember, just email Jim directly. Don't copy other members of the board to avoid open meeting law violation. I think that's a great idea. If anybody wants to share any comments now, I mean, I will just say, how difficult this is, how challenging this is, only because I was a part of the full form-based code process from the very first informational meeting, and I have not been shy about the fact that I'm a big supporter of the form-based code. When the form-based code came to the town had problems that the town was trying to solve. Those problems included abandoned, vacant, derelict properties that had been like that for a long time, that attracted crime in the town, near zero economic growth, completely stagnant economic growth. Any of the projects that did go through were done via regulatory agreements, which we see as really should be a last option, and yet they were the primary tool for planning and development, which is not really how it should be. And then in the midst of the form-based code discussion, we had COVID hit, and we had a massive amount of housing challenges that came before us. So if you look at it through those lenses and those problems, the form-based code has been a smashing success. Now, obviously, I said to Mr. Schulte that the zoning certainly could use some tweaks, and I do believe that. And I think that the work that Mr. Schulte and the ad hoc committee has done has been phenomenal and has gotten some great feedback and input. So, I think this is a great opportunity for an adjustment. I just have to get on the record that, I am continuing to be worried and concerned about the housing, especially affordable housing. And it would be very difficult for me to vote for something that will stifle growth and housing development. I see this as an opportunity to potentially use density as a reward for higher numbers of affordable. For example, if we came up, if it was 1.5 parking spots, but you offered one parking spot for someone who does X percent of affordability, that's a way to grow that affordability number. If you do 3.5 stories,
if you hit a certain percentage of affordability.
Right. We've talked about this in the past, that's the way that you ramp up your number of affordables and do more affordables than market rate, because I think a lot of people agree that we need to work on our affordable generation versus our market rate generation. So if you kept it at 4 for people who did a certain percentage of affordable, and then everybody else was at 3 or 3.5, I think that those are the type of compromises that I like to talk about. The word compromise and middle ground came up many times tonight, and I think that's the area I always look. So my homework, Jim, is, I mentioned that a lot of these vacant lots attracted crime. I'd love to know, has there been any reduction in requests for service from the police department in this area since, say, 2020? Maybe there hasn't, maybe there has. I'm just curious. I would love to, I'm just trying to look at the homework items I had. One thing I'd like included in the staff report is, could you please talk about the current zoning in that area north of Stevens Street and west of Barnstable Road? So the area, the neighborhood that abuts the current DN, I would love to know what that zoning looks like. Is it identical to the DN? Is it different? So if we could have that included just to give us that context. Eliminating the DV altogether seems like a pretty extreme move to me. I'd love to see if we could find some compromise there. I definitely agree with getting some sort of a buffer, a transition zone where we've down zoned that. So I'd love to see, what ideas we can come up with for that. I completely support the commercial on the first floor as long as an applicant can seek a special permit for relief. I just can picture there being a project that we want in this town that's not going to do commercial on the first floor, and I want to give an applicant that option. Again, just, I can't, in good conscience, vote for something that will reduce the economic feasibility of generating housing units in the town of Barnstable and the village of Hyannis. So that's just where I'm at, and but we got a lot to think about, a lot to talk about. In terms of just form-based code, I'd love if the Water District could offer some comments on the form-based code, and if the density within the form-based code is something they have a problem with or something that they're comfortable with. And the same goes with the CWMP. And, and then, Jim, I would like you guys to do a presentation on that multifamily housing report. Again, because if you draw a line in the sand, say in 2020, and you look at pre-2020 and post-2020, it's a tale of two different stories in terms of generating housing, which is something that many in the town, especially members of the public, have expressed that there is a dire need for. So that's my thoughts. I think we should offer Jim any of our thoughts or homework, and then we will get these 4 continued. We'll go to the other 2 and continue those, and we'll get this closed out. Matt, did you want to lead off?
Just to Tim's point, I think, building height and definitions of building height, stories is a layman's term. Building height and half story is defined in the building code. Very, very different than what we're talking about here today. I've run into it 100 times, so I just want to make sure that there's no conflict between what we're talking about. My perception of a half story is totally different than what we talked about today. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely need to dive in, dig deep into that for sure. Michael, anything you have at this time?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Mary, anything?
No, just a lot of reading. A lot more reading.
Yeah, we got a lot of homework to do.
But Just on your request about, services needed since 2020, just be careful when we look at that, crime or whatever. We just went through COVID, which during that time, 2021, 22, I think there was a higher crime, whether we had done anything with the form-based code or not. Is what I'm
Interesting.
saying.
It's a good point.
Just to think about that, we went through that terrible time where there was a lot of crime, no matter what had happened on the form-based code. So
That context is key.
yeah, but other than that, like I said, a lot of reading.
Understood. Ray, anything right now?
Same here. Well, we definitely, we have as much homework as we're going to pass off to Jim.
Understood. Matt, you all right for now? I'm good. Okay. Tim, anything to add?
No, I'm good. Like I said, I have a lot of nitty-gritty stuff and, plan to send it to staff before the next meeting.
Okay, we've got our work cut out for us. So when we continue these, Jim, we just need a motion to continue the item. We don't have to continue the public hearing. The public hearing just stays open.
That's correct, until you close the hearing.
All right, so we just continue the item.
Can we make one motion to continue all of those?
No, we're going to go one by one.
There we go. I tried.
Sorry.
I'm with you, Tim.
So I'm just going to rip through these. So I move to continue Town Council item number 2026-003 to our October 27th, 2025 meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. I move to continue Town Council item number 2026-005 to our meeting on October 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. I move to continue Town Council item number 2026-006 to our meeting on October 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. I move to continue Town Council item number 2026-007 to our meeting on October 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Do I have a second?
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Got it, Tim. All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Those four items are continued to Monday, October 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. here at Town Hall. And we have two items remaining, which we are going to continue.
Do we need to open those two items?
Yep, we're going to open them, and we're going to open the
them
public
to-
hearing, then we're going to continue. Oh, yeah. Strap in, Tim. Here we go. All right. Our next item on our agenda is Town Council item number 2026-008. This is a proposal to amend the code of the Town of Barnstable, Part 1, General Ordinances, Chapter 240 Zoning, Article 5, Accessory Uses by repealing and replacing Section 240-46, Home Occupation, with a new Section 240-46, Home Occupation, that adds definitions, licensing requirements, and makes certain other revisions. So that item is now read into the record. I move to open the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye.
Do I get a motion?
Yeah, why don't you move this one? Yep.
I'll move to continue zoning amendment TC item number 2026-008 to
November 10.
November 10th, Planning Board meeting at 7 p.m.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. And all those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Next one is Town Council item number 2026-012, proposal to amend the code of the Town of Barnstable, Part 1, General Ordinances, Chapter 240 Zoning, Article 5, Accessory Uses, by repealing Section 240-45, Off-Street Storage of Trailers, and replacing with a new Section 240-45, Off-Street Parking and Storage of Commercial Vehicles, Trailers, and Mobile Homes. And we will open the public, I move to open the public hearing. Do we have a
Second.
second? Thank you, Matt. All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Before we continue this, Jim, I'd like to request that Brian Florence attends that meeting on November 10th, 2025, which we're about to continue it to. Would just like to ask Brian Florence about this item. So I will go ahead and move to continue Town Council item number 2026-012 to our November 10th, 2025 meeting here at Town Hall at 7 PM. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. All those in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
We're not going to take that
We're not
tonight,
taking it
unfortunately.
tonight, no.
Sorry. So Ray was a yes. Okay, Matt. Tim.
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. That item is continued to November 10th, 2025, at 7 p.m. We got Brian Florence that's going to attend. It's going to be awesome. All right. So general correspondence.
Just to address, you can still submit, the hearing's open, so you can submit public comment to Karen, to staff, and it will all come to us, and then we can talk about it on November 10th.
Okay, sounds perfect. All right, so a couple correspondence, general correspondence. We've got a letter from Chris Kuhn, which we mentioned. That was on September 12th, 2025, and a Chapter 91 notice for 21 Scottsdale Road in Centerville, Luton, for a pier. Jim, you got a staff update?
No update today.
Yay, all right.
Yay.
It's our guy. All right, everybody had a chance to review the September 8th, 2025 draft minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve the minutes, September 8th, 2025.
Thank you,
Second.
Tim. Second from Mary. Beautiful. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud,
Steady.
votes aye.
Steady.
All right, we're holding it together. Future meetings, as mentioned, October 27th, 2025, and November 10th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Anybody have anything before we adjourn? I'm going to
Motion
bed.
to adjourn.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second to Michael. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.